Hi, welcome to Montana State of Minds with me, Montana, a channel where we recap paperback novels from the 1990s and back. And the reason I did this channel was to show how amazing these books are, and this one is no different. Y'all, this book is fabulous, and I know I say that about every book, but I'm just really good at picking these books out. I'm kidding. The lighting, if you're wondering why the lighting's kind of off, I know you're not. But just because I want to let you know why the lighting sucks is because I'm in my sunroom. I usually film this in my little parlor because there's windows and I get really good lighting. Today's a rainy day, not the best lighting. I also am having a terrible hair day and I had to put my hair up in this stupid claw clip and it's driving me crazy. So I'm not feeling super confident right now, but this is the only day I can film and I really need to stick to the schedule. Back to this novel. This novel for this month is Dazzling Brightness by, now I don't know if it is pronounced in a Roberta Gellis way or a Roberta Gayus. Either way, Roberta Gayus, Dazzling Brightness. And now this is a Greek retelling of Hades and Persephone. Okay. And I know you can't see the cover. I promise we will get into the cover art as we always do on this channel, and discuss it and describe it. Because this is also not only our first Greek retelling, but our first step back novel. And we'll get into that, what a step back novel is later. If you're new to this channel, how it usually goes is we discuss kind of some brief how I liked this book. So you can tell if you want to listen to it, because these things usually go on for like 2 or 3 hours. And then we go into the cover art because the cover art itself deserves time to be discussed. We just need covers like this again. We need full oil paintings as covers again. And then we get into fictional made-up author lore based on just a picture I found on the internet of this author. And then we get into the recap and I tell you what this book is about and what happens. Now, I know what you're thinking. These are obviously very spicy books. This one, surprisingly, it is spicy, but very fade to black spicy. There's only 2 graphic sex scenes in this novel, which is crazy because, again, you look at it and you're like, girl, what else? What happens in this novel then? A lot of shit happens in this novel. And I hate that I can't sit here and talk about every detail for 8 hours. I'm trying to give y'all the recap. I highly recommend this novel for your own personal reading. This is a fabulous book. A lot of these novels, I'll be honest with y'all, throughout some of the more boring chapters, I'll skim. If it's a real chunk like this, and they're just kind of voguing, if you will, vamping as they will, in the chapters of just talking about their day-to-day lives, I'll kind of skim it. This one, I read sentence to sentence. It was so good. I do plan on selling all of these novels on eBay this summer, just because I have so many. But this one I might keep. This one I'll probably keep because this was, again, a fabulous story. Even if you're not really wanting to get into vintage paperback novels, this one I think would be a great opener, kind of like Desert Captive. But then am I setting the bar too high for y'all? Because this one is fabulous. I don't know. Buy it. Now, how I felt about this month, I know I just said it's fabulous and it's amazing, but if you follow me on Instagram or if you are on YouTube and you see my posts, you will have seen that I brought up the fact that this book reminded me a lot of Carrie. Not in the scary sense, but as I was looking up aesthetics for Persephone, spring queen turned demon girl with a overbearing mother and friends that are not her true friends, and this power within her that is mistaken for evil, and it is not. This young, naive maiden turned demon kind of vibe. Carrie popped up, obviously. And then I started reading it in the context of following Carrie. If you don't know what I'm talking about, Stephen King's horror novel and movie, Carrie. The girl at the prom with the bucket of blood, and she just starts freaking the fuck out. That happens in this novel, kind of. Persephone has a Carrie moment, and I love it. I can't wait to get to it. But at the end of this novel, obviously I will go into more detail, but I mean, just off the top of my head, Persephone and Carrie they could have a great little lunch date and talk about the similarities of their lives. Because again, you have these young, golden, fresh little virgin maidens with a power within them that their mothers know of, but don't tell them about. Keep it secret, keep it hidden. And their mothers essentially punish them for being born with these gifts that their mothers are fearful of. And that fear turns into overprotective rage and abuse. Demeter and I forget Carrie's mom's name in that. And I know every gay man just gasps, but I did forget her mom's name. It's been a minute since I've seen the movie. But we all know that Carrie's mom was overbearing and told Carrie it was all her fault. And she was a product of Satan and the devil. And then we have like Hades and the Underworld. And Demeter is telling Persephone, like, this is all Hades' fault. This is all the Underworld, the demons, the darkness of the Underworld. And it cuts to, I can't put the clip because then YouTube will get on to me. But there's a moment in Carrie where she's like, Sissy Spacey's like, it's not Satan, Mama. It's me. It's me. I'm the darkness. That was a great impression, Montana. But Persephone kind of has the same moment, and we'll get to it in the novel. If she's like, Mama, it's not Hades. It's me. I'm the one who's doing this. I'm the one with this power. It's not Hades who's making me do these things. I am doing them. And Demeter and Carrie's mom are just like, if I don't, my overprotectiveness and controlling is protecting you for your own good. I don't know. We'll get into the abuse of the mothers in those two stories. You just have this naive girl and then this power, and then her friends aren't her real friends and cause her all this trouble. In the end, Carrie and Persephone show this power, this huge, I won't say evil power, but at the moment it's kind of evil and scares the shit out of everybody at the prom and at Mount Olympus. Obviously, Carrie has a not so good ending, whereas in this novel, we have a much brighter ending. I don't know. It's kind of a stretch. It's kind of give an English teacher, what do the blue curtains mean? Interpretation, if you will. It's a stretch, but I don't know. I just kind of saw Carrie as a modern little 70s Persephone. I wouldn't be surprised if Stephen King kind of got an inkling of inspiration from that story. I doubt he did. He was on a lot of cocaine, but maybe subconsciously it influenced him. Another really good retelling of Persephone's and Hades' love story is the graphic novel Lore Olympus. Very popular series. I have read them. I went in reading them thinking that it was going to be, I don't know. I don't know what I thought it was. But in order to enjoy those novels, because people either love them or they fucking hate them. And I think you need to read them like an episode of Dynasty or Young and the Restless. You need to read that graphic novel like a soap opera for it to kind of make sense. Don't read it literally. Don't read it triggeringly, if that makes sense, because there are triggers in it and people do kind of take them to heart, and it's like you kind of have to take these abusive situations and these shitty situations in kind of a Camp Dynasty, Dallas, Young and the Restless way, where it's like you kind of have to put that Vaseline on the camera lens, if you will, to enjoy these things. Because if you read them and take them literally to heart and embed them in your soul, it is very haunting. They are very fucked up stories. But if you have watched my Greek retellings video I did a long time ago, where I talk about now women authors and historians are looking at the myths and lores that men have been telling us for so long through a man's point of view, and even straight, they were just friends. Achilles just had his best friend and cried and raged war because they were best friends. But now we have queer, trans, women, minority people actually getting involved in history and stories and being like, I don't know if Medusa was the bad guy in this situation, you know? I don't know. Let's try to hear it from her point of view. And so I think that's a good sister video to this, if you will, promoting my own things. But the take in this novel, just to see if you're into it, is Persephone is not a damsel. She's not a damsel in distress. She's confused, however, doesn't let that confusion slow her down. She's very quick. As soon as she starts to understand a situation, she's like immediately rectifying and figuring out a way to handle it. And let me tell you, the drama between the Greek gods, it's kind of like Asian, like Chinese dynasty drama. If you watch like those kind of shows, like court dramas. And when I say court, again, I'm meaning like Chinese dynasties or Japanese dynasties, like these Asian dynasty shows where it's like the concubines versus the empress and the emperor versus like the princes that want to usurp him, that kind of stuff. Greek mythology is very like that. It sounds so exhausting. This whole book was so exhausting in the sense of everybody is on edge. Demeter is moving chess pieces. Persephone is moving chess pieces. Poseidon, Zeus, Hera, everybody is moving. Even Hermes, everybody is seeing what they can do to shift things to their advantage. And when you're immortal and have powers, it kind of is like, are y'all just bored? And essentially that's what it boils down to, in my opinion, is like everybody's just fucking bored and mad at each other and wanting to get back at each other for stupid, petty reasons. And real quick, I say real quick as if I haven't been talking for 13 minutes. I am also reading the Disney novel Bemused, which is about the muses in the Hercules movie. And it's also a very good retelling of Greek lore. And it was a great companion piece to this novel, but it was interesting reading like Disney Hercules versus Disney Hades. Oh, no, it was very interesting reading Disney's Hades versus this Hades. Very different. But even in that Disney novel, there's so much drama among the gods and having to hide from Zeus and having to and do this and do that and hide from Hades, and Hades needs to use the girls to do this and the Titans and whew, it's a lot. Just some housekeeping before I get into our cover, our author, and our actual novel. I am sorry if the audio fucks up again. I know my last video, it only worked in like one earpiece or one piece of your stereo on the TV. I'm so sorry. So this microphone I got off Amazon. And I'm filming on my iPhone. I don't really have like a big setup here because everything costs a lot of money. But fingers crossed. Anyways, and so this microphone, as you can tell, it's lit up. So I think that it's working when it's working when it's lit up. That's how I know it's working. And so I will film 15 whole minutes of me talking and not know if anything's messing up. I don't have like headphones to wear to like be able to hear my own audio, if that makes sense. So if it messes up, do know I am so sorry. And if this happens again, like it did the last video, I'll probably just try a new microphone and get a headphone set up. I don't know. Fingers crossed it doesn't mess up. I think the reason it did is because I didn't have my phone in airplane mode or do not disturb mode. And I was getting a ton of texts and calls. No one fucking calls or texts me until I'm fucking filming these things. And then everybody from everywhere wants to talk to me. Anyways, and I think that was throwing it off. I'm also, if you can imagine, not a professional voice actress or narrator. Okay, I'm just having fun. We're just having fun here. We're not taking this seriously. I'm not audible to you. I'm not audibling to you. Okay. I just like to do voices because it's very fun. There are no triggers necessarily. The idea and talk of rape is mentioned, but doesn't happen. But I guess that's a trigger warning. Like the plot of rape happens. But I mean, this is Greek mythology. What did you think was going to happen? And I guess not so much triggering, but if you have a rough relationship with your mom, this might bring some feelings because Persephone and Demeter definitely do not have the healthiest relationship. But nothing, I would imagine, too triggering. But I just wanted to put maybe those out there in case those are things you're not interested in. You're like, I don't want to hear about a shitty mom. Okay. I already live with one. I'm good. All right, let's get into this cover. Now, this cover I'm going to hold physically real quick, and then I'll put a close-up on the screen. But I wanted to show this is called a step-back novel in the sense that the first cover is an actual, like, Roberta Gayes, Dazzling Brightness, and it is a blue crystal cover, and it's got a hole in the middle, like someone cut a hole, but it's made like that. And it shows Hades and Persephone in the hole, in this little cave hole. And then you open up that first one to a gorgeous illustration that they ruined with a barcode. Anyways, gorgeous illustration here of Hades and Persephone in the underworld. You can see me in the hole. But yeah, that's called a step back because you step. Now putting the actual picture on the screen so you can see it up close and in detail. A lot of the times, these illustrations back in the day, they were given rough character descriptions and kind of went off the cuff. This one, I guess it's accurate. So in the book, Hades is described as nearly blue, obviously. He's nearly blue. And he's like blue and gray. And sometimes they mention that he's the color of granite. So I imagine when he's not in the glow of the underworld, he's just a very dark Greek man. But then in the glow of the underworld, I guess he glows a little blue. He is also said to have a beard, a black beard, and very curly hair. Maybe like a 4C. I don't know. But very almost afro texture, which I found interesting because it says that Zeus and Poseidon, because remember, Zeus, Poseidon, and Hades are all brothers. Hades is the oldest, Poseidon and Zeus is the youngest. It is said that Zeus and Poseidon have curly black hair, but Hades has the tightest curls. So they are all very tall. It is said that the gods and goddesses are all taller than average natives. And in this book, they refer to natives a lot, meaning the actual mortals in Greece. So when I say natives, I mean the natives of Greece. Okay. I don't know. In this cover, I would want his hair to be tighter because this is honestly given like a George Michael 1989 poofy mullet look. Again, I'm very happy to see an actual person of color on this novel because we've talked about in these novels, they usually, even though the character may be a person of color, on the cover, it's always going to lean a little whitewashed sometimes. So I was really excited to see, again, I'm always, the bar is so low these days. I'm always excited to be like, accurate representation of a Greek person. Crazy. Now, Persephone is, I will describe this cover. Don't worry, audio listeners, but just off the cuff. She is a white lady on this cover here. Not super accurate to the description because, well, I guess it could be. I don't know. In the description of Persephone in this novel, it is said that she is all golden. She has golden hair, golden skin, and amber eyes. Now, you can kind of register that however you want. I kind of saw it, again, as a Greek woman with golden olive skin, amber eyes. I read golden hair as golden hued hair, not necessarily blonde, but it could be blonde. Because Demeter is said to have blonde hair. Interpret it how you will. Once we get to Hades and Persephone's personalities, I'll kind of tell you who I saw, actor and actress-wise. Now, for those audio listeners, let me describe the cover. Again, the first cover is this blue crystal, shiny, foiled cover. And in hot pink, it says Roberta Gayes, Dazzling Brightness. And there's a little hole cut out where you see Hades and Persephone. Persephone is laying down, gazing up at Hades, and he's looking over her, honestly, kind of like an EMT, checking her out, just like, ma'am, are you okay? And then you open it, and obviously we get a little more romance to this body chemistry. We open to a dark cave filled with icy blue crystals, lots of sparkles. Lots of sparkles. And that's a theme in this novel, is how beautiful the underworld is. Because a lot of the gods and goddesses think that Hades lives in essentially a dark cave like a mole person. And Persephone also does until she becomes queen and she sees the beauty in this part of the world. Now, Persephone herself, she is wearing a dirty nightgown thing. It's, I guess, was white at one point in time, but is now leaning more towards a wheat color. And it is just your average maiden sundress kind of vibe. You know, little quarter sleeves that come to the elbows. It covers her cleavage, you know. It's a very modest gown. Remember, Persephone was a virgin maiden for the goddess, the corn goddess. And so this is pretty accurate to a very modest religious dress. And she is a white lady on this cover. She is laying down, turned to her. She's on her side, like if you're laying on your side, stomach facing you, like the audience, like she's facing you, but her head is turned up looking at Hades. And she honestly kind of looks like Bernadette Peters a little bit. Like her hair is very curly and blonde, and she's got a little pinch nose and smaller eyes and smaller lips. Like, again, kind of giving like a Bernadette Peters right here. And then she's gazing up at Hades, and Hades is a very gorgeous looking Greek man. Very, very dark brown skin, black, like I said, George Michael poofy black hair, and a black beard, mustache, goatee combo. He is gazing down at her, like I said, looking like an EMT, making sure she's okay. But he has his right hand on her stomach, and she is holding that hand. So it does look like a lover's embrace. He is wearing a silver tunic, I guess you could say. A silver tunic with, I don't know what kind of sleeves those are. They're like little petal sleeves, if you will. And they're trimmed in gold. And then he has a gold cuff on one bicep and a gold collar around his neck. It's a very gorgeous cover. Again, if this was an oil painting, I would buy it immediately. Like, what a great representation of Hades and Persephone, honestly. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Oh, it just started raining. I wish it was loud enough it could add to the ambiance, because I know some of y'all like to listen to this while y'all sleep, which is wild that y'all can go to sleep with this, but consider it a compliment. Roberta Gayus, which looking at her photo now, I'm sure is pronounced probably Roberta Gellis. And she looks like, one, I really hope this is her, because sometimes these older authors who have passed away, a little tricky, because obituaries pop up, and I'm like, is this her or is this someone's grandma? But I'm pretty sure this is her. She looks absolutely adorable. Look at her. She's a little old lady. Like, to the audio listeners, picture a grandma. And there you go. Like, she looks like on Inside Out 2, nostalgia. Like, that's her. She's she looks like Muriel from Courage the Cowardly Dog. Like, she's just the perfect embodiment of a Nana, of a Meemaw. She's got her gorgeous little white hair, and it's permed, and she's got a little sweater, like me, a little modest sweater, and she's got her little dog. Oh, it's kind of crazy sometimes looking at these photos and being like, y'all write some raunchy shit. You never judge a book by its cover. These little old ladies. Now, just going off this photo, and again, grandma vibes, Meemaw vibes, okay? She probably collects redbirds, cardinal things like my grandma did, because grandmas love cardinals. They love a redbird, because then they sit there and go, oh, that's your pawpaw. He's checking on you. It happens all the time. And I'm going to end up doing it to my grandkids probably one day, of just like, that's your Meemaw. She's checking on you. And it's like, that's a male cardinal. That is not my dead grandma. Casey Musgraves, real side quick, has a great song called Cardinal that kind of captures that Appalachian Southern folklore of, if people are unaware, if you're from another country or not from the South, cardinals are seen as dead relatives or ancestors or spirits coming to visit you. And so every Southern mom or grandma, like Roberta here, will see a little cardinal hop in the tree and be like, that's your peepaw. He's checking on you. He's seeing what you're up to. He's visiting you. And you're just like, I'm pretty sure that's just a bird. But I do it to myself all the time. I saw a red cardinal for the first time this spring. Well, it's not spring yet, almost spring. And I was like, is that my Meemaw? Is she coming to check on me? Is she trying to tell me something? What, Meemaw, what? Roberta's probably collecting those red birds. She probably has an amazing garden. Oh, God. Women like this, they garden the shit out of a garden. They do. I don't know how they do it. They just have green thumbs and fingers. Green hands. She probably makes an amazing pound cake. Fabulous pound cake. And that's probably what she's bringing to the cookout. Remember, we have our fictional author cookout. She's bringing that pound cake. Of which, real quick, my own grandma, she's pissed about egg prices. And she said, and I was telling her, like, you know, we were just talking about it. And I said, well, you probably don't use a lot of eggs by yourself. Like, you know, what do you need all them eggs for? She said, well, my favorite pound cake takes 6 eggs. And I said, well, then make something else. Don't make that pound cake then, Marcy. Of which that's probably an argument Roberta would have with her granddaughter. If she's like, well, I got to make the pound cake for the cookout, but eggs are so expensive. And the granddaughter's like, make something with less eggs. Go get the Dolly Parton bacon mix. It only takes 2. She's probably very active in her Lutheran church, her Lutheran or Methodist church, you know. Probably very active. Now, she probably doesn't drink, obviously, because she looks very old in this photo. But I'd say if she had to have a fun beverage, she'd probably have a sip of like a margarita or something. I don't know. She'd probably be down with anything. At that age, you're just like, fuck it. I'll drink whatever. What are we doing? Jaeger bombs? But she seems like such an adorable little lady. I love her. All right, kids. It's raining. It's storming. It's a lovely ambiance. My dogs are napping for once, so hopefully they will not click-clack around here. And let's get into this recap of Dazzling Brightness by Roberta Gillis. Now, chapter 1, I mean, this book immediately starts. It immediately starts with the abduction of Persephone. We don't get any Hades hanging out in the underworld, planning it. We don't get Persephone hanging out with her girlfriends, braiding hair. We don't get anything. Like, it immediately starts with a man who obviously we know is going to be Hades. And he is in a granite wool cloak. Excuse me. I try my best to keep a professional accent on this account, but sometimes it sneaks out. And Persephone, for those who don't know, her original name was Kore. And Kore means girl. Just means girl. Her mama, Demeter, the goddess of the harvest, never named her. And we'll get to that why. We'll get to why in a minute. Now, Hades in the underworld is an expert jewel maker because he can make glass. He can make mirrors. He can make glass. He can make beautiful little bejeweled brooches and things. And so he lures dear little Kore with a beautiful little bejeweled flower. And again, Persephone's not dumb. She looks at that bejeweled flower and she's been raised around gods. She knows this is a lure. Okay, who's trying to lure me? But Persephone, obviously, much like Reba McEntire, is there life out there? So much she hasn't done. Is there life beyond her family and her home? Like, that's Persephone's theme song throughout this whole thing. Persephone's like, fuck it. I'm going to take this flower. I'm going to see who wants me. Who wants me? Maybe we'll flirt. Maybe we'll kiss. You know, I don't give a fuck. She's just being a bad little girl, okay? And of course, she gets the gem and Hades snatches her. Now, did she know the king of the underworld was behind all this? She probably would have been like, oh, maybe not pick that flower. We get to a meeting with Hades in a cave. He names her. He calls her Persephone. He says, I don't like that your mother never named you. You are not a girl to me. You are not just a girl. You are Persephone. Persephone means dazzling brightness. Oh. Now, the reason she was named Kore is because she was supposed to be the next Demeter within this novel. I don't know if that's canon in the Greek mythology. I think it is. But Demeter had Kore, never named her, because Kore was supposed to just be Demeter reincarnate. Demeter was like, when I burn out, when I die, whatever gods do, Kore will take my place and become Demeter. So why name her if she's just going to be me? Zeus is Kore / Persephone's adoptive father. Persephone, so Demeter did get with I think a mortal man and had Persephone, but that mortal man died in a battle. And so Zeus took Persephone on as an adoptive father. Anyways, Kore's whole life, she has been prepped to be the high priestess for the goddess of the corn, like Demeter's position. Her whole life, she's been pretty much just raised to take her mother's place. Can you see why she picked the damn flower? She's like, get me the hell out of here. And don't worry, we will get to why Hades took Persephone. Don't worry. But we're kind of starting in the middle of the situation. And then throughout this novel, we kind of branch out and learn what led up to this. It's a very interesting way of writing. And I really liked it because, like I said, it picks up the first paragraph. It's like Hades snatched her. But we do have this. You cannot escape me, Hades said, sounding both amused and exasperated rather than angry. So what does it matter whether you eat or drink of the food of Plutos? Nonetheless, I swear on anything you wish me to swear on that nothing you eat or drink will bind you to my realm. I can and will hold you in different ways. The food, he paused to chuckle and shake his head again, will do you no harm. No, not even if you ate 6 pomegranate seeds, had I a pomegranate to offer you, which I don't, and eating 6 seeds provides enough nourishment to keep a person alive, which it can't. Since she was not very hungry, and she was infuriated by the condescending amusement in his voice, Persephone turned her head away, nose in the air. Oddly, despite her protest, she did believe the food was harmless. Now, in the light of his laughter, she saw how silly was that cautionary tale of the maiden who had been trapped in Plutos by eating only 6 seeds after being lured with sparkling jewels. Outraged, Persephone gasped. The black-eyed demon had used the device in his own tall tale to catch her. Now, the reason I sectioned that off is because Persephone is afraid to eat or drink anything in Plutos. Now, Plutos is the underworld. And Hades is like, I made up that tale so that I didn't have to like entertain people down here, which is such a crazy thing. Like, he's such an introvert. He's like, don't eat anything from the underworld. You'll never be able to leave. And so, of course, Persephone's like, I can't eat this bread. I'll never be able to leave. And he's like, girl, I just said that so people wouldn't be coming up in here trying to like eat me out of house and home. And then he also came up with that tale of the maiden eating the 6 pomegranate seeds. Pomegranates are highly linked to Persephone. Anyways, and in that tale, she was lured by sparkling flowers, and Persephone's just like, oh my God. Like, it's essentially a man catching you through a bottle of like a bowl of porridge a la Goldilocks and the Three Bears. You're just like, oh my God. I really did just eat that porridge that was not too hot and not too cold, didn't I? I'm an idiot. And that's kind of what Persephone's feeling. She's like, I'm so stupid. It's been a long day. Hades goes to sleep, and when he goes to sleep, the whole cave turns dark because he emits kind of like that godly light. And so when he goes to sleep, it goes pitch black. And Persephone's like, oh, shit, it's dark. But Hades is not asleep. He recalls his meeting with Zeus. And what had happened was Hades went to Zeus because in Plutos, they don't have grain. They don't have grain to make bread. They don't have grain to grow cattle with. They don't have anything. They have to kind of hunt and eat like moss off the cave walls and hunt the little cave creatures. And he really wants to provide actual food for his people. And so he goes to Zeus to ask for a high priestess because only women had the mystery of growing corn. And here we have him and Zeus talking. Must ask of you a priestess of the corn goddess so that I can build my own temple and Plutos can partake of the mystery of raising grain. That's what I feared you'd ask. Zeus sighed heavily. Feared? Hades echoed. I don't think it is so great a difficulty for you to convince the high priestess to send one of her consecrated women to me. Her mystery would not be allowed to pass out of my realm. And you know well enough that there would be nothing for her to fear in Plutos. My people would welcome her. She would have her choice of acolytes. The problem's not with Plutos, Zeus interrupted sourly. The trouble is with Demeter and me. Hades closed his eyes for a moment. Another cast-off mistress? No, I have more sense than to toy with the high priestess of the corn goddess. In fact, to give assurance of my goodwill, I offer to take her to wife and make her equal with Hera. How should I have known that her lover had been killed in fighting when we took Olympus, and she would be infuriated by my offer instead of flattered? Zeus snorted with disgust. I didn't kill the man. Why blame me? I suppose because he would have survived if you hadn't started a war, Hades remarked dryly. And perhaps after she refused you, she became afraid you would drive her out, as you did Cronus's favorites. I thought of all that, and I tried to assure her. I went to all the trouble of formally adopting her daughter, so that Kore... Zeus stopped speaking abruptly. What girl? Hades asked. Zeus lifted his eyes, which he had dropped to stare at the dark wine in his golden cup. Kore's what Demeter calls her daughter. She has forbidden the naming of the girl, and it is all a piece of with the way Kore is treated. Demeter never lets the poor creature out of her sight, not even to visit with me, her own father. Unaware what he was doing, Zeus touched his lips with the tip of his tongue. Although he said nothing, Hades thought that Demeter might be wise to forbid her daughter to visit Zeus. At the same time, he found his own body responding to Zeus's sensual gesture, thinking of the daughter of the chief priestess. Hades could not bring himself to call her Kore. Must be a luscious morsel to stimulate Zeus, even in her absence. That girl, Zeus was saying, is allowed no congress with men, and she is more than 20 years of age. He smiled broadly. I am her father. I have the right in giving her in marriage, and she is a beautiful creature, all golden, hair, eyes, skin, beautiful. Take her to wife, Hades. You will be doing her a great kindness to free her from her bondage of a mother. I need a priestess, not a wife, however beautiful, Hades pointed out. I don't need another mouth to feed, and one who is in no danger in her native place. But she is, Zeus interrupted, not in danger. Her mother loves her well. Too well, I think. I meant that Kore is a full priestess. Dorcas was complaining to me the other day that Demeter neglects her duties, pushing all preparations and prayers onto Kore. The only trouble will be getting a hold of her, for Demeter will never let her go. Why should she, when it would mean that she would have to perform her duties herself? You'll have to abduct her in secret. Zeus is a troublemaker. I know we all know that, but what a little troublemaker. Hades is recalling all of this, but his anxiety with Persephone liking him is lifted because he hears Persephone digging in the little picnic basket he brought food with, and he's like, oh, at least she's eating. She must not be too scared. Persephone sees a glowing light in the cave, and she's like, great, I can escape. But she notices that he left a bread knife in the little picnic basket. And she kind of has a moment of oh, I can use this knife to protect myself with. Wait a second. Does he think that I'm that weak and not a threat that he could literally give me a knife and go to sleep? Are you fucking kidding me? She goes back and forth with Hades is a kind of nice guy. And then she's like, no, he's trying to capture me. I probably shouldn't be into this capture, but it is fun, And here's a little excerpt as to kind of how Persephone is feeling about this abduction. He said that they needed grain and the numbers of his people were growing and that they would face hunger in the future if she did not teach his womenfolk the mystery of raising corn. And the loaf of bread in the basket was very small. Was she doing wrong in planning to escape? Persephone's lips thinned. No. She was not doing wrong. If Hades wanted a priestess, he should have approached her mother and asked, not seized her and carried her off without a bayou leave. Even as Zeus had agreed. But Hades was Zeus's brother. If her mother knew that, she probably wouldn't have sent a priestess with him. She probably would not have allowed her daughter to go. Suddenly, Persephone smiled. This was the most exciting thing that had ever happened to her. And the way Hades looked at her, the smile froze on her lips. What was happening to her? The food. It must be sapping her will, twisting her mind. Being abducted was not exciting. It was a violation of her rights as a free woman. Hades had lied to her. She must escape before the poison took a greater hold on her. She's kind of into it because she's like, I get to be queen? Okay, keep talking. You're not that bad looking. You're not that bad looking. Keep talking. And again, she's like, oh no, I must be poisoned by his food. Oh no. Persephone does try to run away. As she is running away, she's attacked by some creepy ass cave monster. And it's so cute because as she is being cornered by this thing, she screams for Hades. Hades, please. And, quote, a sound like thunder calls her name, and he rips apart a mountain to get to her. Y'all, this man ripped apart a mountain so he could sprint to her and save her. I mean, where's my crown? Where do I sign up? I'll help. What do you need me to do? I know for a fact she probably like definitely got a little flummoxed, a little flushed when he ripped that mountain and his muscles, and she was like, oh my. Hades. Now, her and Hades are traveling through the underworld, through all these caves and stuff to get to his realm. Because if you can imagine, all of the underworld is not lived in and looks pretty. And so he's like, we need to travel to get to my palace. And so they're going through these rocks and these caves, and they're learning about each other. If you can imagine, a very cute meet cute is like, I abducted her, and then we got to know each other as we were traveling through the caves. Hades has to use... Okay, so in this novel, they're not gods. They're called mages, which are like wizards and witches. They're powerful mages. And the most powerful are seen as gods. So within this novel, all the gods are kind of talking to each other like, oh, they worship Demeter as a goddess. Isn't that crazy? Oh, they worship Zeus as a god. That's wild, just because he's a really powerful mage. So that's interesting. None of these people are gods or goddesses, but because they have special gifts, people worship them as gods and goddesses. I don't know if that's canon to Greek lore either. Persephone also has a gift, but Demeter never told her what it was. So she doesn't think she has one outside of just quickening the seed for the harvest. Like she just helps plants grow real good. You know, that's what she thought her gift was. And here we'll kind of get an inkling as to what her gift is. Be strong, she whispered, turning and coming back the few steps she had fled. He whipped around to face her, black eyes wide, but there was color in his cheeks and lips. What did you do? He asked. Nothing. She drew herself up. I wish for you to be strong to defend me, and I came to stand with you. Perhaps I could distract the thing so you could strike it more easily. You must be my queen, he breathed. She shrugged, although the intensity in his eyes, the near awe in his hushed voice, made her know she was worth more to him than gold or diamonds, or even bread in this strange world, and that brought blood to her cheeks. I'm only trying to save myself, she said tartly. What safety could I find in these caves with no guide and no light if harm came to you? You wished me to be strong, he repeated, as if he had heard nothing else she said, and then turned away abruptly. So he's kind of like, you kind of like me. And she's like, no, I don't. I just need you to get out of here. As they're going through the cave, they have this real tight, close moment where they're hiding from one of those like creepy cave critters, and he kisses her on the forehead, and it gives her light. Like she's able to give her own light now in the cave. And I just liked it because Persephone was like, oh, he doesn't just lust for me like Apollo and all the other Greek gods kind of do. Like he's being very tender and caring towards me. She has a very big inner dialogue of being very confused because she's like, I shouldn't be into who abducted me, but he did rip a mountain in half for me. Hades throughout this novel is an amazing man. He is so patient with her, but not in like a dad parenting kind of way. Like here's this for example. Persephone shuddered. Take me home, she breathed. In Olympus, people are not followed by raven beasts, nor would we be followed by them if you had not sought to escape me, he snarled. But then he said more gently, it was my fault. I should have explained the dangers to you more clearly. He's so nice to her. And again, the bar is so low for us women sometimes where we're just like, oh, he's not a piece of shit. He doesn't want to rape her. That's so kind. But again, in this novel, Hades, I mean, just put him up there with like Sharif and Galen from our last book. Like peak man. Peak man. I do love this tidbit, y'all. Persephone is almost just as tall as Hades. Tall girl representation. Hello. I'm 5'9", and so very tall. And I love reading someone who's like me. Okay, I'm tired of reading about all these little baby girls and she puts her hand in his hand and it's so big. And it's so big. And I know if you watch a lot of my videos, you're just like rolling your eyes at like, here goes Montana on she hates petite little girls and big tall men tropes. But I do. Because some of us are big. Me and Megan the Stallion are out here towering over people, okay? And honestly, I kind of pictured Megan the Stallion. Here's who I pictured in this novel. Megan the Stallion as Persephone, because when I think of golden, I think of like her. I thought of Britney Spears because a little Southern girl. Like I thought of Southern women. I thought of like Beyonce from like Destiny's Child era. I thought of Megan the Stallion. I thought of Britney Spears. I really leaned into Megan and Britney because Persephone has such a little attitude and she is such a little Southern queen. And you'll see it in here, but she is just like, oh no, I'm queen of the underworld, y'all. Hades, bring me some fried shrimp. Like she loves fried shrimp. She loves a crab boil in this novel. And Hades, I kind of saw for a minute. I don't know. For a minute before I heard about his hair texture, I kind of saw like that Skarsgård kid who plays Nosferatu in Pennywise. I kind of saw him as Hades, and I was telling my husband about it. And I was like, could you imagine Megan the Stallion and that little Skarsgård kid together? Like as a couple? That'd be wild. But I'm kind of into it. Anyways, Persephone is also described as fleshy. As Hades says, you are not like the little wafy nymphs that run around Mount Olympus. You are a whole lot of woman. And I love it, girl. Them little goth boys, they love a curvy girl. They love a curvy, tall girl. Okay? He says that he is a mage, not a god. And again, this mage thing, they're not gods. They're like big wizards. And again, they're having a time in this cave. They are falling in love. You need not fear. I will let no harm come to you. To comfort you, I would go back and close the way, no matter the cost. But there are reasons not to seal that passage. If a hunting party should be attacked by again, these little cave critters are called Ponpiqua? I don't know. It might be their only escape. There is danger enough for my hunters without closing their lines of retreat. But if there were grain to feed your herds, you wouldn't need to send hunters into danger, Persephone said, her voice light. With his arm around her, she was not afraid and could not resist teasing. He chuckled. You're accusing me of having a mind that runs along a passage without side entries. Sometimes I fear you are right, but I swear this time I'm innocent. Persephone laughs too. I must confess, I'm surprised you gave me credit with sense enough to understand anything after the way I ran off. His arm tightened around her. That was ignorance, not lack of ability to understand, and it showed a high courage, which I admit I did not guess you had. Zeus said you always bowed to your mother's will without protest. That is out of love, not fear, Persephone snapped. I believe you, Hades said, but I could not know that before I met you. And Zeus could not tell me much about you beyond your great beauty, and you were able to perform the rites of the corn goddess, because he does not know you either. I do not wish to hurt you by speaking ill of the one you love. Indeed, I don't think ill of your mother. What she did was done out of love, but too much love is not healthy. She stiffened under his arm. How can there be too much love? Perhaps I said that wrong. His grip relaxed just a trifle, as if to show she was free to break loose if she wished. I mean a love that cages and cripples its object, forbids it to be fully everything it can be. He stopped abruptly, pulling Persephone back against him and gripping her so hard that she was lifted to her toes for a moment and the basket dropped to the floor. A sharp gesture at Hades' free hand instantly killed the glittering points that had provided the light. From the blackness that surrounded them, Persephone could see in the distance a faint shimmer that might be golden light. The sun, she breathed. But she did not struggle to free herself to run towards the light, and in the next, instant terror, because Hades, who had faced the evil cave thingy that I can't pronounce, with near contempt and with no more than caution and distaste, shuddered. No, it is not the sun, Hades whispered, and looked over his shoulder as if he was considering going back, as if facing the giant rats that ran in a pack like wolves might be a lesser evil than what lay ahead. And so we leave with whatever the fuck they're about to deal with. We'll get to that. But we cut to Kore's best friend / the other maiden, Dorcas. And I know what you're saying. Dorcas? Dorcas is an old Greek name. It's actually biblical. Is it Hebrew? I don't know. But it is an old name that every teenage boy will giggle at. I kind of like it, to be honest. Dorcas gives us her plan. And guess what? This has been her plan all along. Because, quote, if Hades did take Kore, Dorcas intended to be the next high priestess, and it was not likely that she would have to wait for Demeter's death before she held the wand. She was Zeus's favorite. It was she who told him that Kore was allowed to leave the temple. She knew that Zeus's purpose in relinquishing Kore to his brother was to obtain a priestess who would be more malleable than Demeter and willing to support him. Her smile broadened a trifle. When she had the wand, Zeus would indeed find her malleable and supportive, but for a price. Dorcas, of course, super bitch. We learn all of her scheming. She's been sleeping with Zeus, planting in his head that Demeter is too powerful and that whoever controls the food source of Mount Olympus is more powerful than him. So he needs to get a priestess that will support him no matter what, because Demeter don't fucking like him because he killed her husband, you know? And so Dorcas has been doing that, and then she's been mentioning Persephone of like, well, she's got a daughter. She's got this daughter. She's got a daughter. And as she goes, quote unquote, looking for Kore, because of course Demeter's like, where's my daughter? Like, we're supposed to be doing the rites. She's late. And Dorcas is like, oh, you know Kore. She runs off. I'll go look for her. And as she goes and looks for her, she doesn't. But she does pick the bejeweled flower. She sees it. And she's like, I'll be taking that. And she goes and she kind of picks some flowers here and there. And she tells Demeter, I just can't find Kore. I guess I'll perform the rites. Huh. But she sucks at them. Duh. Demeter knows that. She's like, Dorcas, you suck at the rites. That's why Kore does them. Oh, find Kore. And here we have this between Dorcas and Demeter. But what should we do? Dorcas asked. Should I go into the city and ask for men to make a real search? She widened her eyes. But then Zeus will hear that she's run away and he might say, She clamped her mouth shut. Kore has not run away, Demeter snapped. She's very childish sometimes and takes delight in making me worry. No doubt she was watching you rush about frantically looking for her and thinks I will do the same. I will teach her a good lesson this time and ignore her. She can come to no harm in the valley. When she's hungry enough or it starts to get dark, she will come home. She paused, staring hard at Dorcas and taking deep breaths. Then she slapped her hand on the cavern arm of her chair. As for you, you have been lazy in your duty and have doubtless offended Our Lady with your clumsiness in performing her ritual. You may spend the next 2 days fasting and kneeling to her, begging her pardon. I am sorry, I'm so sorry, Dorcas murmured, but she thought the punishment a small price to pay for the success of her ploy. Even if Demeter did begin to worry about her daughter, she would wait a long time before admitting it to Zeus, who had often complained that Kore was much too confined, that the girl had fled her control. You will have company in the shrine when Kore returns, Demeter said. Go! I'm having to get into my mom voice there for Demeter. That's what my kids hear when I tell them to get ready for school. That tone. Demeter is obviously upset. She is a prime example of helicopter parenting, okay? Just goes to show, even outside of Christian households, religious parents, they're very, very helicoptery. She kept her away from men her whole life because in Demeter's mind, men will only leave you or they will die. So why interfere with them? And it's like, well, I mean, that could be said for anybody. Demeter, Jesus. We learn of Kore's true gift that Kore herself, Persephone, does not know. And that is she enhances the power of those around her. So that is why I kind of understand. I'll give Demeter a little credit in that you cannot promote that to the gods of like, hey, my daughter will make you more powerful. Everybody would be snatching her ass up. So I kind of understand an inkling of keeping Demeter on the down low. Because if Zeus finds out that she enhances power, I mean, everybody's going to be stealing her. And Demeter also acknowledges that Persephone, Kore, is absolutely fucking drop dead gorgeous. And she describes her daughter as tall and richly curved. Again, Megan Thee Stallion comes to mind. Demeter is spiraling. She promises that she will lock Kore / Persephone. I guess when Demeter's around, I'll say Kore because that's what she refers to her as. And then when Hades and everybody else is around, I'll say Persephone. I don't know. Is that dead naming her? I hope not. Anyways, Demeter is obviously spiraling. She's thinking the worst of the worst. And she vows that when she catches Kore, she's just going to lock her up for good. Because that's what you do in this situation. When you get your daughter back, you just lock her up. Demeter thinks that it's Zeus right now. She thinks Zeus took her daughter because Zeus is a horn dog. Demeter knows that. She's like, I swear to the gods, if Zeus tries to fuck my daughter. And she distinctly says that Zeus's lightning may kill one at a time, but she can kill thousands by not making a harvest. And I'm like, ooh, Demeter's a cold bitch. Because that's true. You can kill one at a time with that little lightning bolt. I will wipe out this whole island without food. Which kind of goes back to why Zeus is like trying to get rid of Demeter. Because he's like, all right, she don't like me and she could like starve everybody that like worships me. Ew. Now we go into Mount Olympus. And this is one of my favorite scenes. Okay. Zeus is at his little table. He's entertaining other gods and goddesses. And Demeter crashes the party. Busts down the door. Zeus, where is my daughter? Demeter shrieked. You have laid your hand on one sacred to the goddess. Not I, Zeus replied, pushing back his carved and gilded chair and standing up. Liar, Demeter cried. She is my daughter also, Zeus countered, shaking his head. And I would not foul myself with such pollution. If Kore is not in the temple, I will swear by your goddess, avatar of the great mother, that I do not know where she is. He shook his head again. I am not perfect in chastity. A roar of laughter greeted that miracle of an understatement, and Zeus smiled briefly. And Kore is a ripe and beautiful woman, but I would not soil my own daughter. You thought her safe in my keeping, actually, Zeus exclaimed and swallowed hard as if to suppress more words. I don't have her, Demeter, he added, frowning as if he was worried. Foolish woman, how long has the child been missing? She might be lying out in a hillside with a broken leg. No, I would know that. Does Kore have the gift of speaking mind to mind? Zeus asked. No. She has no gift beyond the link with Our Lady that lets her quicken the seed. But I am her mother. I would know. Hera snorted. Did I know that Hephaestus fell into that ravine and broke his hip so badly the healers could not mend it? He was there for 2 days. Mothers may think they are so closely bonded to their children that they feel their hurts. But it is wiser not to trust too much to that. I don't know why I gave Hera an Australian accent. I just wanted to try an Australian accent. Luckily, she only has like 2 lines in this whole novel. You don't have to be subjected to that. I'm so sorry. I get into a Kath and Kim mode. If you haven't watched Kath and Kim, watch it. It's on Netflix. It's kind of great reading this, and there's like thunder and lightning going around me. I wish it could be heard throughout this book, but I guess it's not picking up. Ares, Zeus said, call out the young men so we can send out a search party. Hera, will you scry for us? I know one bit of the hillside looks like the other, but perhaps something will be recognizable, and Ares would know where she was out there, and the men could search more carefully. She has been taken, Demeter insisted. I know she is concealed somewhere, held by force. I will scry for her in the city as well as on the hills, Hera said. She rose and stared at Zeus. But there are spells that can blind any scrying, even mine. Then let Demeter conduct a search herself or direct the search of others as she pleases, Zeus said promptly. And then to Demeter, I will give you a sigil, and then you will carry out my authority to enter any place for the purpose of searching for Kore. And that authority will include the private rooms of this palace and the public and private rooms of any home or workshop in Olympus. It will entitle you to command a force of men or search for your priestesses. Can I do any more? Hermes hid her for you outside of Olympus, Demeter cried. Hermes, Zeus commanded. What should Hermes sound like? Let's do one of those like 1940s actors. I swear I've not seen, spoken to, or transported or hidden your daughter anywhere, Demeter. Nor do I know where she is now. Nor have I known her whereabouts any time today. You will move her from place to place as I search, she sobbed. I do not have her, Demeter, Zeus repeated, his voice soft, his eyes steady on her. Nor do I know where she is. So you say, and so you swear, Demeter's voice grated like chalk on slate. And perhaps the words are even true, but the spirit behind the words is false. I will neither bless the seed nor sow it, Demeter! Zeus's eyes blazed, and blue light hissed and sizzled between his fingers of his raised hand. You may not starve a whole people because you blame me for the death of your lover more than 10 years ago. I did not take, and I do not have your daughter. Your temple is sacred because you bless and sow. If you do not, the temple is sacred no longer, and I will not lift a hand to protect it or you from the rage and revenge of people whose children are starving. Zeus, Hera said, she does not mean it. She's mad with grief. She loves her one child too much. Zeus sighed. You're right. But the spells that quicken the seed are in the goddess's giving, and Demeter has no right to withhold her bounty because of private grief or rage. If she will not do the goddess's will, the lady will empower another. As he spoke, a terrible weakness washed through Demeter from head down to her feet, as if some warm strength that had upheld her was draining away. Had the goddess warned her, or was she just frightened by Zeus's threat? We will see, she gasped. But in the end, I will have my Kore back. It may be so, Demeter, but I will tell you plainly that if Kore is not lying hurt somewhere, I think she went because she wished to go. Find a little freedom. Hera spoke what we all know. You love her too much and you hold her too close. Even a daughter must breathe. However, since I have no proof that she is by her own will, I say here, and now to all assembled, order my word be carried to all that is not present, that if Kore is anywhere in the valley of Olympus, she is to be brought to a public meeting where she may answer for herself whether she wishes to return to her mother's keeping. I will have her, Demeter repeated. I will never give up. Welcome to Montana's theater. We cut back to Hades and Persephone and what the fuck that scared Hades. So in the underworld, there's what is called the Golden Death, and it is essentially gold magma that if you touch it, it'll kill you. And it's, of course, everywhere. Yay! So they're dodging these cave creatures. They're dodging the golden death oozing everywhere, of which Hades burns out. Like he destroys it because he doesn't want his people touching it. But obviously it's kind of everywhere. So he just burns it as he sees it. So he's doing that. It's just this whole chapter is them just going through the maze of the caves and just all the dangers. And they're kind of bonding and flirting. And he's catching her. She's helping him. It's super cute. Hades is burning the golden death, but it is kind of too much for him to handle. And so Persephone is like, I will pray for you. And she prays. And remember, her gift is giving strength to those around her. And she nearly burns Hades out. She gives him so much strength that he's like, whoa. And he is like, what the fuck was that? And she's like, I don't know. And so at this moment in time, they're just like, what the fuck happened? But he is absolutely smitten with her regardless of her gift. And he is so kind and so gentle. And he treats her, I mean, this book could be a blueprint for like, hey guys, if you're watching this channel and you want to know like how to handle a woman in a chivalrous, protective way that does not undermine her own independence and freedom and strength, read this book because Hades does it perfectly. He treats her as a strong equal. He's like, you're going to be my queen. You're going to have every say-so in what I have say-so in. We're going to handle the matters of Plutos together as a team. I will always be here to protect you, but you also give me strength, literally and figuratively. Like, it's just so good. He finally reaches the point of where he's like, great, we're home. And he takes her through a wall because it's Hades and he can do that. But she has this inkling, this triggered moment of he takes her through the cave wall and it reminds her of when she was abducted. Which was like a day ago, but she's just kind of like, or no, it was a few days ago. They're in this cave for like a few days, but it does trigger her a little bit. She's kind of like, oh yeah, this man abducted me. Again, she's struggling. She's not supposed to like her kidnapper. It's very Beauty and the Beast, if you will, of like, I'm not supposed to fall in love with this man, but he's like, if you're going to be abducted by Hades. She's in this beautiful little Polly Pocket chamber, as I called it, because it's kind of like that. Like it's just this little room of like a bed and stuff. And it's not their throne room and it's not where they live. But Hades mentions that throughout the underworld, there are these little pockets of pretty places to hang out. She's a very healthy eater. I am so excited to read a book about a girl that is like, I am fucking starving. I'm hungry, Hades. I'm hungry. I need a snack. My blood sugar is low. I've been running in the dark. I'm hungry. And he says, all right, I only brought like a basket of bread. I didn't know you were going to be hungry. I will go hunt. Okay. And he's like, will you fucking stay? Are you going to stay or are you going to go? And I like, they just have the cutest like teasing. Again, it's kind of like the last book we read with Hester and Galen. I love a couple that's like just good at riffing with one another. Good chemistry. It's hard to write, but when it's written well, like in this novel, oh, it's like you're sitting there with them. Okay. And I try to bring that to light with my voice acting, but some days are better than others. She recognized the odor of the spice and she raised shocked eyes to Hades. This is apple butter. This is not some concoction of whatever the hell was in the cave and some cave moss, is it? Hades stared at her for a moment and laughed, stuck a finger in the pot and tasted what he brought out. It's not a cave creature, certainly. No one, not even my cook, has ever discovered a way to make a goat taste like apples. We do have apple trees, so I imagine the spread is mainly apples, but I think the spice is blue light cave moss? He paused and added with cynical politeness. I hope you don't dislike it. It is widely used. Persephone lifted her arched golden brows into an even higher arch and twisted her lips. What good would it do if I didn't like it? While the words she spoke with equally false politeness were, I don't dislike the taste or the scent of moss, but I cannot say I like to think of what I was walking on the ground, which it grew. You mean you prefer bullshit to goat shit for manuring the earth? Hades interrupted, choking on her laughter. For one moment, Persephone stared at him, her mouth full of another bite of bread and spread. She had been thinking of the pallid, slimy creatures walking on the moss. Then she shut her mouth and almost strangled, trying to laugh and swallow at the same time. Hades kindly pounded her back until she could breathe again. That was a low blow, she said with dignity she could gather. But as the real sense of what he had said penetrated through the jest, she drew a shocked breath and asked sharply, what do you know of the manured fields? That's a mystery of the goddess. Okay, so what had happened there was, because I didn't do it properly, but I just liked it because she's a girl that eats. And she's like, is this apple butter? Is this apple butter? This is good. And he's like, I mean, we have apples, but like some of the other spices are like the cave moss. And she's like, ooh, we were just walking on that. And he's just like, girl, you put cow shit in your fields. You eat that? What? One shit's different than another? Which it is, okay? Don't fertilize with dog shit. That's different shit. Because I know some people are like, why can't I put my dog shit in compost? Real quick, that is because you cannot put carnivorous poop in manure and compost, okay? You can put herbivore poop, cows, horses, goats, but you can't put things that eat meat. But she does ask, like, how do you know about manure in fields? That's my secret. That's my secret. And he's like, girl, like, we kind of know, like, about farming, but we just don't know, like, how to farm. She does look up at Hades in a serious, solemn moment. And she's like, what is my gift, Hades? Like, what happened back there? And you would think that he would be shit-talking her mama this whole novel. Like, your mom's a fucking bitch and she kept you. But he actually sticks up for Demeter. And he's like, I think she was trying to protect you by not telling you of your true gift. And he's like, you know, your gift's a very powerful tool. It nearly burned me out. Could you imagine if like Zeus or someone got a hold of what you could do? They would never let you go. And he's like, I think she was trying to protect you in her own weird way. Like, again, Hades, blueprint for a man. She is always trying to protect me, Persephone said, exasperation rather than grief and bitterness in her voice. And after a moment, a little smile pulled on her lips. You, on the other hand, bring me places where goats, rats, and yellow slime try to eat me. Since you have decided on a noble confession, will you not admit that it's unfair to expose me to one danger after the other? Swallowing a shout of joy, Hades rose from his knees and looked haughtily down his nose at her as he said, but I do not think you need protection. Her eyes widened with surprise at first, and then she stuck out her tongue at him like a naughty child. Hades very nearly bent and seized it in his lips, but she pulled it back and took another piece of bread. He stood a moment longer, clenching his fist behind his back while he restrained a desire to push her back on the fleece and make love to her at once, which would have ruined all his good work in being, quote, fair to her mom. That she trusted him now and did not want to run back to Demeter's protection was clear enough from the way she joked about the horrors they had just survived and dared him to offer to return her to the temple. Should he take the dare just to see how she would avoid accepting his offer? A chill slid over his skin. Let me remind you, he said severely, that the confrontation with the goats was all your own idea, and all the other dangers grew out of that. You mean I should have sat there like a ninny waiting for my abductor to finish his nap when I believed I saw a way out? And like, that's a line. Like she is so Southern coded. Hades sighed and took a bite of the meat roll. When he swallowed, he said, that is just what I thought you would do, or perhaps cry a little. But as I have said before, I did not know neither you nor the blue light cave was so near. He laughed suddenly. But we both need is to be better acquainted with each other. Much better acquainted. He leaned towards her, his eyes fixed on hers, and he held his breath as she seemed to sway closer. But before he was sure she had been tempted to respond to his wordless invitation, she dropped her eyes to the basket. You're not going to like what closer acquaintance with me shows if you do not find me more to eat, she said tartly, eyeing the last meat roll. Take it, take it. It's a small sacrifice when I was just about to offer you my whole heart. Persephone's eyes sparkled even more brightly as she looked up. Were you planning to bake it or broil it? She asked eagerly. Too bad we don't have a pan. If we did, we could fry it, which would be the best because heart is very tough and it is most edible when it is sliced thin. Oh, Persephone, she is too worried about food. This perfect man, is hitting on her. Just like, girl, we better get acquainted in this dark, sparkly cave. And she's just like, well, I'm hungry still. So, like, what we gonna do? I can't fuck on an empty stomach. As Persephone takes a nap, as she goes to sleep, they've had a big week. Hades reflects on Demeter and kind of like internally is like, all right, Demeter, what were you up to with Kore / Persephone? Like, what was the deal here? He's super pissed that Demeter would use her own child that she did not name for her own power. He's like, that is wickedly fucked up. Super fucked up. And he vows that Persephone will not be used as some crazy tool for his own power, that she will be a savior to his people. She will save Plutos. I put this note, God's gotta pee, because there's a lot of gods and goddesses taking a leak in this book. Not a lot for like it to be weird, but you're just kind of like, it always makes me like, I like a detail of someone using the bathroom, because so many of these fantasy novels, they're like dodging all these monsters and stuff. And you're just like, does anyone pee? Does anyone stop to take a pee break? And so I like that Hades is like, I gotta go pee. Hades is explaining his world to Demeter, that no, the inhabitants of Plutos are not dead. Okay? What they are, so in this realm of this novel, there are gifted people. Some gods are really gifted, and those are the gods. And there are average people, kind of like Persephone, who have, or like the maidens who worship at the temples and stuff, they have little gifts. Like, oh, I can see in the future. I can quicken the seed. I can help make water, little things. And some gods, like Demeter, collect those people and use them for their worship. And some gods, we will learn, like Poseidon, kill them because they are a threat to his gift. You don't want someone more powerful than you. And so Hades' Plutos is made up of the people who are cast aside, the people with tangled limbs, missing limbs, people who have gifts that were in danger of being killed by gods who are jealous of them, blind people, deaf people, people who could not function in society. So essentially, in a politically incorrect way, the underworld is made up of misfits, if you will. He's enjoying all of her questions, but it is noted in a detail that the light goes out of her eyes when she mentions leaving. And he takes note of that. He's like, I'm not trying to Be like, girl, you left me. You don't want to leave. But like, I don't think you want to at least return to your mom. Persephone, in return, is absolutely enamored with how Hades rules the underworld because the other gods rule with such iron fists and power-hungry motives. And Hades is generally trying to take care of his people. He's thinking of them constantly. He works really hard. He's truly a big public servant for Plutos. Wouldn't that be nice? Wouldn't that be nice if our government officials actually gave a fuck about us and understood that their jobs were to be public servants? Yeah. And I have this cute little interaction with them. And just the context of this situation is they're trying to get through something, and Hades has to cut off the bottom part of her gown to like make a bag, I think, to carry something. And he's like, look, I will give you 5 gowns if you just give me the bottom piece of your gown, like knee length. Let's make it a T-length dress. Okay, girl? I need the piece of cloth. And Persephone says, and where would an unmarried man come by women's gowns, 1 or 5? Persephone snapped before she realized she was exposing her jealousy. Hades lowered his eyes. I am king, he said gravely. I take what I desire. Persephone knew the gravity was assumed, but she was too furious to consider what it meant. Thank you for your generous offer, she said disdainfully, but I think I prefer my torn dress to the hand-me-downs of your bed partners. Never would I do such a crude thing, Hades exclaimed, struggling with the corners of his mouth. I assure you, the gowns will be all new. But the struggle became too much and he burst out laughing, rocking back and forth. Persephone, I am a man and not so young. Did you think I was a virgin too? She turned her back on him and he put a hand gently on her shoulder and turned her back. I have lain with more than a few women, he said, completely serious. But none has shared my bed in the sense you mean for many years now. I have taken a little easy pleasure and given it too, I hope. But you need no fear rivals, not from the past and not in the future. I know what such lies and such promises are worth, she said, turning her face away. But she did not pull free from his grip. He snapped back sharply. I do not lie or make my promise lightly. Oddly, Persephone did not think he was angry, despite the sharp tone. Suddenly, something told her he was really flattered, and she was further soothed. His manner toward her was certainly not of a man seeking a little easy pleasure. She did not know much about men, she reminded herself, and she thought, but I do know about the tales of Zeus, and myself have seen the way he looks and speaks to a beautiful woman. Nonetheless, she understood the advantage of reserving any sign of belief or acceptance. All right, 5 new gowns for 2 handspans of cloth, she said slowly. That's a good bargain. Now let me see. Persephone, Hades barked. If you are considering deliberately forgetting the basket each time we go gathering, so I will carve up your gown and offer you new ones, put it out of your mind. I have no intention of bringing you to my palace stark naked. It is bad enough that you will doubtless tell everyone I abducted you and not admit it was your father's permission. I do not intend to let my subjects think I tore your clothes off too. She looked at him sidelong and shrugged. If that's already your reputation. That is not my reputation, which is why my people would be... He began hotly, then drew a sharp breath. Persephone, if you do not stop teasing me, I'm going to murder you. Oh, they're just like us. Gods are just like us. And we do get our first sex scene. Persephone loses her virginity, y'all. Mazel tov. Now, my plan, hopefully, is to open up a Patreon where I will read said sex scenes to you for $3 a month. Now, my plan with the Patreon, I know y'all are kind of groaning, like, oh, everybody has a fucking Patreon. But hey, these little social media, like YouTube and stuff, they don't fucking pay, okay? So I got to buy a new camera. I got to buy a new microphone. $3, come on. But I want to do $3 for the sex scenes and additional talk about the books and the novels each month. But then $5 for an extra video where I will do something else. Like, do y'all want me to watch Carrie and recap Carrie to y'all? And then we can have a discussion of like Carrie and Persephone kind of being the same. Like, that would be a good accompaniment accompaniment. I can't say that word. It's kind of like Finding Nemo. Anemone. Don't hurt yourself, kid. But would that be something y'all are interested in? Or y'all kind of like, girl, we've seen Carrie. We get it. She had a really bad time at prom. But hopefully I will get a Patreon, so at least we can hear these sex scenes, because she loses her virginity, and if you didn't love Hades enough, he's so kind to her, but not in like a not sexy way. I don't know. It's hard to make losing your virginity sexy, but some of these authors, they do it. Persephone goes to have a bath in a hot spring because it's all underground, and she kind of goes back to Dorcas calling her queen of the underworld, and she's like, that was a weird thing to call me. Now looking back, Hades makes her practice opening and closing her gift for her own safety. Again, I'm just going to talk about how amazing Hades is. Because instead of just being like, oh my God, you have this powerful gift, good fucking luck, or let me abuse it, he's like, you need to be in control of it so you can give consent to who gets to use it. Because your mama's going to drain it. Zeus will drain it. He's like, I might ask, who's to say I won't? He's like, you need to be in control of your gift so that you can give consent to who uses it. Like, which again, just to be like, not PC real quick. If you're a parent, that's kind of like how I would approach talking about drugs and sex with your teenagers. Like I have, the oldest of mine is 13 going on 14, and we do discuss drugs and sex with him because, hello, we were all 13 and 14 once. And much like Hades, it's like the more power you give your kid or your spouse, like, you know, him with Persephone, the more control they'll have. Like he's saying, people will abuse you. You need to give consent. I'm giving you this knowledge. We need to learn your power together so that we can help you control it so people won't abuse you. And I think that's kind of like a good parenting or partnering way of teaching about sex and drugs and stuff with your kid. I know that's kind of like off the wall. You're like, Montana, what the fuck? But I just think there's power in knowledge and giving respect to somebody and being like, all right, let's learn together about this thing so we can give you the power to control it. You know? I don't know. Maybe that's like too off the wall, but it's just what made me kind of think about it. Of like, oh, he's teaching her own power, her own gift, her own sexuality, her own control. We should do that with all of our young boys and girls. Instead of being like Demeter and just being like, no, I will just lock you up. That will protect you. And this is cute because Persephone loses her virginity, but she's ready to go for round 2. She's a hungry girl in more ways than one. Okay. Do not be a fool, he snapped. If I lie with you, I will keep you awake all night. I thought you would want time to heal. Have you so little control? Yes, he said rather grimly. You only have a choice of a hard bed or a hard man. They burst into laughter and Hades piled the fleeces together. As he foretold, they had a restless night, which neither complained and slept late into the 3rd day. She finds a cavern full of beautiful clothes. And he's like, girl, I'm a king. What'd you think? And they're enjoying their time together. And she meets the staff, if you will, of Plutos. And again, they're all kind of mangled and not stereotypically, I don't know how to politically correctly say this, but I guess I'll just say it. Like, they're not stereotypically attractive people. Again, they're people with like messed up faces, messed up ailments and stuff. And a lot of them are actually criminals from Olympus. People Zeus has cast down into the underworld. Like Arachne makes all the clothes. Who, if you know Greek mythology, Arachne and Athena had a weave off, if you will, of like who was the best weaver. And Arachne, I think, won, and like Athena cast her away because she was like, I'm the best, get out of here. But anyways, Arachne is kind of the seamstress of the underworld. And a lot of other characters, I don't specifically know their stories, but they all kind of had lore behind them because Persephone was like, oh my God, that's this guy. And this is this guy. And the butler is this guy. She's like, they're all people who were cast away. So again, the underworld is made of this like misfit toy island. She gets a tour of the palace. Again, the underworld she thought was going to be a cave, but it is a beautiful, much like the cover, a beautiful blue crystal, beautiful, like insanely gorgeous place. Like the moon kind of serves as the sun. So it is lit. You know, it's not like this dark cavern. She accepts her role. She's like, I dig it. I dig this man. I like the people. I like the clothes. I like my mom not being here. I'm into it. I do love this. She opens Hades' bedchamber and she sees another woman in his room and she throws a fucking fit. And it's a mirror. No one has seen a mirror before. Only Hades can make them because he has hot lava and sand and like glass. Like he's the only Greek mage, if you will, that can make glass, which is where he makes all those little baubles and mirrors. And she's like, oh. And he's like, girl, it's you. That hottie that you're mad at me like cheating on you with. That's you, girl. And she's like, oh, wow, I'm really pretty. Can I have a mirror in my room? And she is presented to Plutos as High Queen and High Priestess. And everybody's super excited. They really like her. She's a really nice girl. She goes to the temple and gives herself to the goddess for the first time without her mother. And she's really excited for this role. She's finally in charge. Like she's getting to like be the head of the store, I guess you will. Like head baker or something. And she's such a little FFA, Future Farmers of America. Persephone is such a little country girl. She is so into farming. She's like, oh my God. All right. So we're going to need plows. We're going to need this. We're going to need this. I'm going to need at least 6 girls to come help me in the temple. She's loving it. And here we have this. Persephone's eyes gleam with enthusiasm. The earth must be turned and then turned again. And I will need seed. She frowned. Seed is stored in the temple in Olympus. Where am I going to find? I will obtain the seed, Hades said. From the temple? Oh, be careful, Hades. If my mama hears of it, she will guess where I am and demand my return. He touched her face gently, with none of the assurance he showed when they made love. Persephone. Yes, Hades? He stared at her a moment longer and burst out. I cannot bear that you think of yourself as a prisoner, that you should be bound to me against your will. You must be free to choose your own world. If you still want me to take you home. He swallowed hard. I will. She laughed and took his hand. I must choose indeed 2 women, 6 maidens, and 10 girl children for the temple. They must be trained, at least partly, by the time the earth is turned and you bring the seed. The temple must be furnished and formally consecrated. I will just be too busy to talk about all this nonsense. You know that warmed his little cold heart. Ah, you know that made him so happy. We're checking in with Dorcas and Zeus and these 2 fucking idiots. 6 moons have passed. So what's that, like 6 months? And they're laying there after sex, hanging out. Zeus is now kind of seeing Dorcas as the liar she is. And like, she's trying to manipulate. Because of course she's laying there with her tits out. And she's just like, so, you should make me priestess. I don't know. And he's like, what? Why would I do? What are you talking? Oh my God. Was this your plan all along? Oh, you heifer. And he's like, I'm not going to make you priestess. You're too ambitious. Look at what you did. You manipulated me, Zeus. You think I'm going to put you in charge? No, because you're way too ambitious. I got to put someone way meeker than you, Dorcas. But he's a smooth talker. This made me laugh. I acted it out to my husband in the kitchen. Let me act it out for y'all. He's sitting there putting on his little loincloth or toga or whatever the fuck. She's sitting there again. It says like with her tits out, which is always the most awkward way to like talk to someone you had sex with, like still naked. And he is like, oh my God, do you hear that? I think Hera's scrying. I think she's trying to see where I am. Girl, I'm going to go. Okay. But I'm going to go because she's looking for me. So it'll follow me. You stay here for your own safety. I'm doing that for you, Dorcas. All right. I'll go. I'll throw Hera off her trail and you stay here where you're safe. And she's like, oh my God, Zeus, you're thinking of me. Thank you. Thank you for protecting me against your crazy ass wife. But then as he runs off, Dorcas is like, wait a second. I can tell when people are scrying. Ain't nobody scrying. He just fucking left me. He ran off. And that cracks me up. Because again, just to run through, he's just like, oh my God, Hera is calling me. I'm going to go take this call. She's probably driving around the neighborhood looking for me. I'm going to go. You stay here. Okay? Because I love you so much. You stay right here. She's like, okay. And then she's like, wait a second. No one was fucking, there's no, you lying ass. He just fucking bolted. Zeus, as fucked up as he is, Greek mythology would be very boring without him. You have to admit, he's a hoot. You know, if you can ignore all the sexual assault. And as Dorcas is, of course, realizing that she is a dork in more ways than one, it's probably where the name came from, he had only lain with her because he had nothing better to do and had come upon her by accident. Dorcas swallowed hard. Zeus never had any intention of helping her to be high priestess. He wanted Demeter to go on acting mad so the temple would fall into disrepute and Zeus himself would be the only authority in Olympus. So again, he has his own plans. The chess moves in this book are insane. Everybody is constantly thinking 3 steps ahead. All right, y'all. Here's a rundown of Dorcas's big plan. She's going to plant that gem, that little flower that she took that Persephone was trying to get at. She's going to go put it back, have a maiden find it. Demeter will see it as the same as what Zeus gives Hera, and she'll blame Zeus. And then Demeter will be more insufferable to Zeus. Okay? And so he will finally get rid of her because he'll be like, my God, she's driving me fucking crazy. And he will make Dorcas priestess because she's the only one who knows the rights. That's her big plan. We'll see if it goes through. Let's cut in and check on Demeter. Okay, she's losing her goddamn mind. It was too late for searching. Demeter knew. It had been too late for a long time. And what could she do except the loss of her daughter? No one wanted Kore to be found. They were all completely convinced now that, as Zeus said, Kore had run away on her own free will and was hiding from her mom. Demeter knew it was a lie. Kore was a loving child who would do no such terrible thing. Kore knew how much grief and sorrow had filled her mother's life, and she knew she was her mother's only solace. The priestesses had spread the story that Kore wanted her own freedom and she wanted her own name. She didn't want to be high priestess. These were all lies. They want me to seem mad because they all want to be rid of me. Demeter moaned softly to herself, weeping in self-pity. When she heard the words, she blinked away the tears, having shocked herself into awareness of a truth she had not previously faced. She had not a friend in all of Olympus. Even her priestess had turned on her. Even her priestesses? The lesser priestesses were the last to want Kore back. While Kore was with them, they had accepted the fact that Demeter would always be high priestess, that Demeter would live again in her new-named daughter after her old body died. Now that Kore was gone, ambition had wakened in them. So Demeter's like, I'm alone. I don't have my daughter. I can't trust anybody in Olympus. I can't trust my priestesses because now they're all vying for my hand to make them high priestess. Like, she's feeling desperate. She finds Dorcas weeping. Oh, forgive me, my lady, she sobbed. Forgive you? For what? That jewel. It must have been the temptation that drew Kore from the path when we were around the curve and I could not see her. She called out to me that she wished to pick a flower. A flower, she said, not some flowers. I never thought it was a strange thing for Kore to say until after they showed me the gem. A wave of relief that Dorcas's, quote, crime was so innocent swept through Demeter, impelling her to answer with grudging kindness. Well, I might not have thought it strange myself. I do not see that your mistake is anything to weep over, particularly since I cannot believe that a pretty trinket has been there all this time. I fear it has, Dorcas cried, beginning to sob again. I didn't believe you when you said that Zeus had taken Kore, but that jewel flower is so like the ones that he gives Hera. She bent her head to her knees, hiding the expression on her face as Demeter put a hand to the wall to support herself. Mother, Demeter breathed. I knew I had seen that kind of jewel before, and that I had seen it could not have nothing to do with my Kore. Of course, I've seen Hera wearing those gems, and Hera would not take Kore, but it was Zeus who gave Hera those gems. Yes, and that makes my guilty so much worse, Dorcas wailed. But I did not know. I did not know. I told him. Told him? Told who? Zeus? What did you tell him? Dorcas closed her eyes and tears ran down under the lids. We were lovers. You knew that. I did not try to hide it. Only he would ask questions about the temple. She opened her eyes for a moment. I always told him what I knew and what I thought. She brought up her hands to hide her face, to shelter if Demeter struck her. How could I have guessed it was to conceive such an abomination against his own daughter? He asked me whether you ever let Kore go without you to the temple grounds. I thought he was only curious, or he wished to speak to her, to meet her. I told him," her voice sank to a whisper, "that you did not accompany Kore when she washed the corn goddess's garments in the Great Mother's pool." Demeter stood staring down at the hunched and trembling Dorcas. Her eyes were blank with the shock of comprehending her own blindness. How could she have forgotten that few people knew Kore ever left the temple grounds without her mother? The question was obliterated by fury. Had she remembered, she would have known that Dorcas had told Zeus of Kore's vulnerability at the time and place. It had to be Dorcas and Zeus, because no other priestesses had liaison with a great mage. She could have dragged Dorcas with her and demanded a public confession. Even now, she could force Zeus. "My lady," Dorcas sobbed, catching hold of her skirt, "do not tell him I told you. He will blast me." There was fear in those words, real fear. The thought, quote, "real fear," echoed through Demeter's confusion, and she recognized the genuine fear had exposed the false regret. Tears and trembling and confessions were completely out of character for Dorcas. "And why did you tell me now, when it is too late for the knowledge to do me good?" "Because he cast me aside," Dorcas spat. That was genuine too, Demeter thought. But Dorcas was still speaking. "It is too late," she urged. "Take the gem. Show it to all. The maidens will go with you and tell you where she found it. Demand that Zeus bring Kore back from wherever he took her." "Back from," Demeter echoed. Demeter sits in her thinking chair, if you will, and she figures it all out. She's like, Dorcas was behind this. Dorcas wants to be priest. She got rid of Kore. She's with Zeus. Something's happening. Now what? Demeter says, let's get Poseidon involved. Let's get the middle brother in here. Make it a family affair. Okay? So she goes and crashes at Poseidon's because Mount Olympus is too stressful for her. And she just doesn't want to be anywhere that reminds her of Kore. So she's like, the ocean. We don't do shit over there. I'll go hang out there. So she goes and hangs out with Poseidon. We learn that Poseidon teaches his natives on his realm how to do their own thing, and they all neglect Zeus. None of them worship Zeus. He's like, you better not fucking worship my little brother. While she's at Poseidon's, she teaches his natives how to grow grain and stuff. She's like, do y'all want to know how to be independent women and men from Zeus? I'll teach you how. And they're like, great. And so she neglects Mount Olympus in Zeus's realm. Okay. And remember, that means people are starving. And they're going to be really, really pissed at Zeus. And here we have this discussion with Poseidon and Demeter. Because again, Demeter shows up and he's probably like, oh, God damn it. Yeah, you can stay in the guest house, I guess, Demeter. Jesus. All right. She's going to start bitching about her. I don't know where your daughter is. I don't know. She's not in the ocean. I don't know. Please don't bring that mess here. Okay. I'm just chilling with my coastal grandma vibes, being Poseidon, eating my lobster rolls. Do not bring that drama to this realm. I can't. What should Poseidon sound like? I should have made him Australian. Oh, well, he has too many lines and I can't do that accent that long. What should Poseidon sound like? I don't know. It'll come to me. Maybe he should have a deeper voice than the either one. Hades kind of has a deep voice I can talk in a lot. And then Zeus, I just use kind of my natural voice because he has such funny vernaculars. Let's try this for Poseidon. Sit down, Demeter. There are other places to look, but my men do not confine their questions to temples, and I'm beginning to have doubts about whether Zeus does have your daughter. What is this proof you say you have? Let's go with it. I don't know what that was. A flower jewel, just like those Zeus gave to Hera. It was found where Kore was last seen. No one in Olympus, Poseidon said. But Hades himself might have made such toys for Zeus, or more. No, Demeter cried. Hades would not take a living girl into the realms of the dead. But Hades himself is not dead, Poseidon pointed out. Perhaps he does not like or can't be satisfied by the embraces of spirits. No, No, I will not believe it. Kore is not dead. I did not say she was dead. Did I not just point out to you that Hades is not dead? Unfortunately. Again, the shade in this novel. Roberta Gillis, she can write some shade. I will not believe that my poor Kore, my bright and beautiful Kore, was imprisoned among the cold shades for a whole year. Demeter wailed. Poseidon snorted with contempt. You can refuse to believe that Hades holds her if you like, but I am beginning to think that is the only answer. Moreover, 2 of my men brought back hints that Hades has taken a bride, a tall, golden woman called Persephone, which in the old language means dazzling brightness. You never told me that. I did not think much of it before you mentioned the jewel flower. Why should I think that Hades was in any way involved? And the woman didn't sound like anything you told me of Kore. He hesitated, pursing his lips. But that is a real rarity among native women. I should have realized Hades' bride must be an Olympian, besides the fact she's almost as tall as Hades. What is said of Persephone is that she is the true queen of Plutos, and that Hades bows to her will. Demeter wrung her hands. That does not sound like Kore. I cannot imagine her ruling the harsh king of the dead. But she is tall. Her voice faltered. I think of her as little, 'cause she's my little girl. Only a little girl. Poseidon frowned. Little girl? But Kore must be more than 20 winters of age. Not so much as that, Demeter exclaimed, but she burst into tears. That is why Zeus said I could look for her as long as I pleased. He knew. Dorcas told him where my poor Kore would be alone and vulnerable. He told Hades. She shuddered. Poseidon, you must go to Hades. You are his brother. Ask for my daughter back. I will do anything for you. Anything. I cannot do that, Demeter. That is a bond among Zeus, Hades, and me. We each have our place and our power, and we do not interfere with each other. Kore is Zeus's daughter as well as yours. He has the right to demand that Hades return her. Not I. And he tells her he can't do anything. Okay. But there's a king on Celius that can. And that is where the gates of the Underworld is. How convenient. So she goes to that island. She can't find anybody that knows where the gates of the Underworld is. But she finds these 2 little girls. Turns out they're princesses to the king. She goes to the king. He loves entertaining a god. He's just like, oh my God, a god's at my house? Yes. Stay all you want. This makes me look amazing. Long story short, he gives her a slave to go to the Underworld doors. They have to take a hog to there. They have to sacrifice a hog. So they just walk a hog, a female hog that is pregnant. A sow, excuse me. It took me a minute. Walk one of those into the portal to the Underworld as a sacrifice. And we'll learn why. It's actually really clever why. Demeter demands for Kore to come back. Busy tone on the dial. No one answers. It has been 2 springs in the Underworld. Persephone's having a great time. She's loving it. She's her own boss. She's got a hot husband. It's great. And the pregnant sow thing was her idea. Because at first they were just killing chickens and stuff. You know, your typical sacrifice. And Persephone was like, no. We need pregnant hogs to be sacrificed. And Hades and all the natives were like, why? Essentially, because she was craving cracklings. Now, I don't know. Are cracklings just a Louisiana thing? Or is that a Southern thing? I haven't been to Arkansas. And of course, they ain't going to have any good food. But they ain't got cracklings. Or at least none that I have seen at the grocery store. Because you can go to a gas station in Louisiana and there's cracklings everywhere. My mom loves them. Anyways, she wants pregnant pigs to be walked through the gates of hell, essentially, because she just had a hankering for some cracklings. Again, Persephone is a farm girl. Persephone's smile broadened, and as she remembered Hades' sigh and the shake of his head and the twinkle in his eyes when he said, I don't understand why you are not too fat to waddle. All you think about is food. Is that not why you brought me here? Persephone asked with a giggle. Hades had seized her arms and kissed her. It is not why I keep you here, he murmured, pushing her back towards the bed. But anyway, she had the bright idea of all right, stop killing the livestock. Just walk them through the door and then we can have them. Free livestock. She's smart. She wants Mama to come for a visit. She says, my mama needs to come make sure that I'm doing okay. I heard she's kind of causing some trouble upstairs. We got to have mama come. And he's like, okay, great. In-laws. They have sexy, sexy time. And again, hopefully in the Patreon, if I can get it uploaded, I'll read that to y'all. What a lovely bedtime story. Demeter, remember, is at the gates of hell, essentially. And she is going absolutely crazy. She refuses to accept Kore's name. She refuses to accept the adoption of Zeus as her father. Because they're sitting there, like, they're not talking to her, but the guard is kind of like acting as a messenger. And he's like, Persephone is queen here. Zeus allowed this arranged marriage. And she's her own woman. And Demeter is just pulling her hair out, just like, I'm her mother. Her name is Kore. She does not have a father. Zeus is some adoptive bullshit that's not real. I am the only person she needs to be concerned with. Bring her to me. And everybody's like, oh, what do you do? The messenger is begging her to reconsider, and she thinks it's out of fear. She's like, oh my God, Hades must be so awful. This poor messenger is just shaking with fear of me reconsidering because he's going to hurt poor Kore. Obviously, nothing, like, Demeter leaves thinking that Kore is in more danger than she ever was. And Hades and Persephone are kind of like, we got too much on our hands. We can't worry about mama. Okay? We got to focus on our energy, literally, our gift on Plutos and keeping our people happy. We will deal with mama later. Demeter offers any hero to defeat Hades and bring her daughter back. And for 2 years, no heroes show up to take her on that offer. No Hercules, no Achilles. No one wants to deal with it because no one cares. But you know what can stop Hades? Water. Water can stop Hades because he is of earth and Zeus is like sky and wind. Poseidon, water. So if she can lure Hades or Persephone to be surrounded by the ocean, Hades won't have any power. So she starts scheming. She's scheming. She's thinking of things. Hermes shows up to the underworld. Yay. He's just checking in. He's got some messages from like Zeus and stuff. You know, he's kind of like the Twitter before Twitter. And Hermes has the detail that I enjoyed where he's thinking to himself. Hermes smiled nervously and bowed. The name probably meant dazzling brightness, but there was another meaning for Persephone in the old language, which Hermes' love for words, especially words with double meanings, made him very familiar. Persephone could also mean brilliant destroyer. Either meaning seemed remarkably appropriate to the woman as she looked at him calmly, as did Hades. So Hermes is kind of sitting there like, Persephone might be more than I think anyone is understanding. She's more than what Demeter thought she was. She might be more than what Hades thinks she is. We'll see. He's in the underworld also to beg Hades to give Persephone back because Mount Olympus is starving. Demeter refuses to bless the seed, the corn, whatever the hell needs to be blessed. And everybody's starving. And they're like, all right, Zeus is like, first year, that's on me. People can miss 1 year of bad crops before they start getting desperate. And he's like, but next year they're going to start sacrificing, killing the cattle. And then they're going to be really pissed. And Hades is like, well, he'll just have to do what me and Poseidon have to do with our natives. Deal with it. Persephone tells Hermes, look, let me and my husband talk about it. We'll have an answer tomorrow. Okay? We'll talk about it tomorrow. Let us think about it. Which Hades does not like. He's like, what do you mean you have to think about it? Anyway, so they have a marital discussion of and a fight. They have their first fight, I think. Of Persephone's like, I've got to go calm my mom down. She thinks I'm miserable. She thinks that she's doing the right thing. Let me go talk to her. Let me go visit my mama. Let me go to my hometown. I promise I'll be back in 3 months. And Hades is like, he's doing that thing of so I guess you don't love me if you want to leave. You want to leave. He's very insecure because he always thinks that Persephone, when you abduct a woman, you might have that inkling insecurity. Like, is she here because she likes me or is she here because I abducted her and never took her back? And he's struggling with that. She reassures him, I love you, honey. Please let me go calm my crazy ass mama down before all of Mount Olympus start. People are dying. Let me go help. Hades, Persephone said softly, stretching a hand out towards him. Do you not see? They will not attack Plutos. They will attack you. They will snatch me. You are not the only one who can abduct a woman. Hades laughed. They will not take you by force if they do not want their pretty city swallowed up into the earth. That is why they're going to attack you first. They will kill you, Hades, to get to me. She ran to him and threw her arms around him. I love you, she sobbed. I do not wish to lose you when all I need is a few days or weeks to explain to my mama. She turned her tear-wet face up to him. She loves me, Hades. She will not want to see me weep for you and cry day and night of my loneliness and my desire. She lost a man she loved. She will let me return to you and then do the goddess's work at Olympus when she understands that what Zeus did to me was a great kindness. He gave me the perfect husband. I will tell her I am only happy with you. Would you cry for loss of me? He asked. I love you, she whispered. You've never said you've loved me before. Not once in all the time we've been together. Not even when you begged me to enter you. Why do you say it now? She sniffed. Because now I want you to be sure. Because I wish to dangle the carrot of my confession to keep your big black eyes from looking elsewhere. He shook his head. If you mean that, you're as mad as your mama. You're a beautiful man, Hades, and a great mage. And you did not learn to make that kind of love that brings me to plead with you to give yourself to me without knowing other women. She shrugged. I thought it could do no harm to leave a little doubt in you so I would have a small extra weapon. I've seen women look at you. If my charm should grow stale with so much use, you are mad. I grow hungrier and more in need of you every day. I could barely allow you to go to your duty in the temples in the far valleys. No, I can't believe you. You have snared yourself in your own string of lies. If you are jealous as you claim, you would never leave me to console yourself for the absence of your mother alone. I don't wish to leave you, Persephone shrieked, but I would rather be jealous of a living man than sure of a dead one. Her eyes filled with tears, and she dashed them away and shook her fist at him. But if I find that you have taken another woman to our bed while I am gone, I will cut it off. Mouth open to protest her denial, Hades choked and began to laugh. He caught her to him and rested his cheek against her hair. That is worse than cutting off your nose to spite your face. They are silly. God, they're silly. I love it. They make a visitation plan. Like Persephone will go there for, I think, 3 months, work on mama. Obviously, mama will come around and she'll come home. Great. And they are so, like, they just work constantly in Plutos. They're such civil servants. Both him and Persephone are constantly working to help their natives to make Plutos an amazing place. And so they are working on burning out the Golden Death. She's giving Hades power. He's burning it down. And Hermes shows up and he's like, hey, we're supposed to go see Demeter. And I love this detail of when Hermes shows up, Hades bows his head, to be courteous. Persephone lifts hers. I love that. That's such a good little detail. Hades is like, hey, Hermes. And Persephone's just like, hey. She lifts her chin. I will not bow. And I'm just like, ooh, that's powerful. That's a powerful moment. She is no longer Kore. She's no longer girl. Hermes is showing up. He's like, all right, we got to go. And Persephone's like, let me get my bags. And she's got tons of luggage, as a Southern girl would. And Hermes is like, how the hell am I going to travel? She's not light. She's a big girl. And I got to carry her luggage? Hades. And Hades is just so love struck. He's like, honey, let me help you with your bags. Hermes, put your back into it. Carry my wife's shoes, damn it. They arrive to Poseidon's. Demeter, of course, does not accept she's like, Kore, you're back. And Persephone's like, my name's Persephone, Mom, and I'm having a great time. I missed you. And they already immediately start fighting because Demeter's just like, oh my God, you've been bespelled by Hades. This whole book, Demeter thinks that Hades put a spell on Kore to make her be this in love. She could not fathom that her daughter just loves Hades. Who could? He's blue. And he's scary. Like, Demeter's terrified of Hades. She's just like, he's very scary looking. And listen to this. Let me put my claw clip up. Again, I'm having a terrible hair day. Persephone, queen of the underworld, has a throne, has a bed, like, has all of these things. And Poseidon's like, here, let me show you to your room. And Demeter goes, no, she can just sleep on a bench in my room. If you're an audio listener, I'm just giving a stare to the camera, but she's just like, no, she can sleep on a bed. I'll make her a pallet on the floor. She can sleep next to mommy. Mother dear. Again, it's so Carrie vibes of like, she will just lock this girl, shackle her to keep her from leaving. Oh. And of course, Poseidon's like, that's kind of weird. I think she probably wants her own room. Like, it's just this scene, if you can imagine, like, Persephone showing up with all her luggage and she's fighting with her mom, and Demeter's lost her mind, and she's just like, no, everything's fine. Kore will just sleep on a bench, won't you, Kore? You love your old mama, dear, don't you? And everybody's looking at each other like, oh God, this is not how it's supposed to go. Mother, it's over. I'm not your shadow or your tool any longer. Look at me. See me for who I am. Hades' dazzling brightness. A person. A woman. You are my Kore, bespelled, but coming back to me. No, Mama, I am Persephone. You are my child. My body was raked with the pain of bearing you. You owe me love. Yes, and I'm willing to love you when I am treated as a daughter, a grown-up daughter, instead of a prisoner. A prisoner owes her captor nothing, and I will give you nothing as long as I'm confined here. Tell me that you will go back to Olympus and quicken the seed and bless the fields, and I will go with you gladly. Tell me I will be free when that duty is done, and I will help you as I used to do, Mama. I will even stay until after the celebration of the spring solstice. And if you need me, I'll come back each year for every spring, so long as I'm free to live the rest of the year with my husband Hades in the underworld. It has become very dear to me. Never, Demeter shouted. I will never again give you to that stone-hearted monster who has changed you into a monster like himself. Persephone caught the denial, although she did not yet understand the exact form. She had one more step to take in her appeal. Mama, do you not wish me to be happy? Whatever the reason, I am truly happy as Hades' wife. I must go home soon after the spring solstice. If I don't, Hades will swallow much of Olympus down into the earth. Surely, you do not mean it. Demeter's eyes were wide. Yes, I'm afraid Hades means exactly what he says. He always tells the truth and always keeps his promises. Demeter burst into crows of laughter. I hope you will come back to me, my Kore. But if you do not, you have given me the perfect revenge. I could almost love Hades for what he will do. With good fortune, Zeus will be entombed with his city and with all those who laughed at my pain when I searched and searched for you. What joy! Demeter is crazy. And Persephone's like, oh, shit. Mama, this is going to be trickier than I thought. Persephone needs to tell Hades what's kind of happening. But Poseidon will kill Hades because Poseidon hates Hades. So she hires a girl to give her message. She finds like this little village girl and she's like, can you go to the underworld and tell my husband this might take a little time? And that girl's just like, sure. But throughout going to town and like getting this messenger girl, Persephone can feel what we all know as the evil eye watching her. She feels somebody's watching her. She don't know if it's Zeus. She don't know if it's Hera. She don't know if it's Hades, Poseidon, her mama, anybody. Somebody is watching Persephone. The girl gets the message to Hades, and the message is this, because, you know, it has to be coded in case somebody else hears it. The sacrifice was not made to Zeus and cannot be retrieved from him, whatever the wrenching. Be patient, and the sacrifice will return itself to you. Let's hear that again. This is the message. I'm the messenger girl. You're Hades. The sacrifice was not made to Zeus and cannot be retrieved from him, whatever the wrenching. Be patient, and the sacrifice will return itself to you. Obviously, the sacrifice is Persephone. But for a minute, Hades is like, what? He thinks it's spam mail. He's just like, what the fuck? And it's just this, it goes back and forth with this beautiful poetic thing of both Hades and Demeter love Persephone. Their world is Persephone, but one loves her in a it just shows, like, sometimes, like Hades said, love can be bad. Too much love can hurt. Is it love? Is it possession? Those kind of things. When is it too far? If you love something, you let it that little saying, if you love something, you let it go and it comes back. And that means it's Zeus and Hades talk, because Hades is like, hey, it's been a minute. Can you go get my wife? Go get her. It's been 3 moons. And Zeus is like, I can't interfere. Poseidon fucking hates us. I can't show up. This is I can't get into marital business. This is between you and your mother-in-law. All right. Zeus is like, look, Hades, I know she's a hottie. I will give you so many priestesses and wives. You can have a harem. Just give up Persephone. Let her go back to Demeter. People are starving. He's like, I just need Demeter to shut the fuck up. Please let her have her daughter back. Please. And of course, Hades knows that would be awful to Persephone. She doesn't want to go back. Like, this is more of a rescue mission than it is like, I need my wife back for me. He's like, Persephone will be miserable. He learns that Poseidon has her, and he's like, shit, that was a clever move on Demeter's part. I can't get to her because it's in the ocean. So he does try to think of a rescue plan, and we leave that chapter. Persephone has a plan. She's gonna, listen to this plan. She's gonna have a coffin built. She's going to give Demeter a sleeping potion, put her in the coffin, pretend it's her dead dad, and she's like a village girl, and she's like, I got to get my dead dad home. And they'll go back to the underworld. It's a very far-fetched plan. And Persephone's kind of relieved that she has a plan. She's excited. She's going to go home to Hades. So she's looking. This whole time she's been at Poseidon, she's obviously been Debbie Downer. And now she's happy. And Demeter thinks she's happy because she's finally getting out of Hades' spell. And Persephone was kind of worried that Demeter would be worrying why she was going to town all the time. So anyways, let's have this little page. Persephone found the approach to her mother far easier than she expected. In fact, it was Demeter who showed the way by remarking about the middle of the first week that Cyrus was working on the crate, that she was very happy to learn from Neso that Kore was beginning to enjoy her friends again in the palace and in the town. Persephone's heart almost stopped on the last words, but Demeter patted her cheek and said she was well content for little Kore to have some freedom. She never intended, Demeter went on, to make a prisoner of her daughter, but only to protect her from being made a tool of an unscrupulous mage. Since Kore had learned so well to conceal her gift and had done nothing foolish, why should she not visit the town? Like, Demeter's patting herself on her back. Like, you go to town and play with your little friends. See, I'm not such a bad mom. Oh, God, that is so my mom. Not to get, like, into personal stuff. That's some shit my mom would do. It's not freedom, Mom. It's demeaning. Fortunately, Persephone was so frightened that she did not flinch away from her mother's hand. She stammered something about seeking distraction for her grief over losing her husband, and Demeter laughed and told her not to be so stubborn or spiteful. Oh, you do not really miss him, she said. Only when you deliberately remind yourself to punish me. I do not understand why you find those coarse natives more attractive than the young folk in the palace. Although I suppose none of the men will come near you now the way you knocked down Memos. I just wanted you to know, Kore, that I am tired of you weeping and blaming me. And then having assaulted your silly guilt. After all, you owe nothing to a man who abducted and raped you. Dancing out, enjoying yourself. So, essentially, what she is saying is, go and have fun. The only time you're sad is when you remind me that you need to be with your husband. Like, in Demeter's mind, she's like, Persephone is faking it. The only time she ever gets sad about her husband is when she's around me because she wants to punish me because she couldn't go out. Well, okay, go out. Oh, like, stop faking it. We get it. You're sad, blah, blah, blah. But I see you having fun with your friends, so obviously you're not too sad. Like, it's very manipulative. You know, like, if you read this novel, I'm not doing it justice, but if you read this novel, Demeter is very manipulative, abusive helicopter mom. It's just emotionally manipulative that a lot of us millennials are like, yeah, that's very familiar. We know that parenting style. Persephone needs to get Demeter okay with going to this little cottage that she's like kind of started to hang out at, where she has that crate being built. She needs to get her mom kind of in a routine of going there. So when she asks her to go, when she knocks her out, it's not like out of the blue. So they go, and Persephone's like, oh, I made a shrine. Let's worship the corn goddess together like old times. And she gives Demeter some of that power, her gift. And oh, y'all, the way Demeter takes a hit of Persephone's power, she's like, oh, that's the good stuff. That's the good stuff. Oh, mama's back. Oh yeah, I got my core back. It is so disgusting, honestly. Demeter just drinks in Kore's power, and she's like, oh, we're back in business. And it's just like, oh, gross. You just wanted your daughter for a fucking drug hit, essentially. Oh, maybe it's like that. Maybe Demeter's kind of like addicted to a substance and abuses her daughter for that substance. Ooh, I don't know. That could be read a different way. I won't get into it. That's up to y'all in the comments. But it could read kind of like that. And of course, you can't have beautiful little Persephone trampling around Poseidon's palace without Poseidon perking his ears up. And Persephone closes herself off. She closes her gift off. And when she does that to people, she comes very plain. Like everybody's like, oh, she's just a plain mortal. But then when she opens her gift and is enjoying herself and is happy, she glows beautifully. And Poseidon has only seen her with her shield up, but then he saw her glowing and he was like, oh, she's very pretty. And that's not good for a god to think that you're very pretty. She is a very strange person, Poseidon said to Nereus. Mostly she is plain as a closed oyster, but when she first came, she glowed like a true pearl. And even now I sometimes catch a glimpse of that glow. He shrugged. When I have time and when Demeter no longer cares, she has her doubts already, I know. I will force open that shell that encloses her daughter and see what is within. Lord, Nereus breathed, you cannot keep Lady Persephone. I have seen that she will rule long by Hades' side. What? I cannot change my visions. What you do not like is yet for your own good. I didn't mean to hurt you. I was only surprised by what you said. So she goes back to Hades, does she? Do you see whether he wants her back or must take her? She rules beside him. That's all I know. Rules? Truly rules? Yes, Lord. Poseidon's bottom lip thrust forward. So he's giving like a little pout. So despite the fact he has done nothing to retrieve her for all these moons, Hades loves her. What else have you foreseen? Is there some danger in my association with her? Nothing. I've seen nothing that shows any binding between you or any danger from her, nor Hades. Good enough. I desire no bond with the woman, only a taste or two of her flesh, and a solution to the mystery as to why she has the glow of fine gold at one moment and of tarnished brass the other. Nereus said nothing. He felt no compulsion to volunteer any information that did not affect his master's safety. Poseidon was looking past him in the direction of Persephone's chamber and suddenly laughed. If I must give her up to my brother, I can at least sour his joy in her. Blah. 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 Gross. So Poseidon's got his eyes on Persephone. And Persephone is going back to that cottage and she sees a beggar and she kind of feels, Hades, is that you? She has an inkling it's Hades. I don't know. It's just a wifely inkling, if you will. And so she's like, I don't have any money, good sir, but if you come to this cottage up by the shore, I can go get my pocketbook. Wink, wink. And you're kind of like, God, I hope it's Hades. If it's not, this man's going to kill her. And the chapter in a Goosebumps kind of way closes out with like, she goes to the cottage and she wonders, was that Hades? And then a man in a cloak shows up and slams the door. Dun, dun, dun. And you're like, oh shit, who was it? But it doesn't tell you in the next chapter. It cuts to Poseidon hanging out with his wife. And it's kind of gross the way he talks. He loves his wife and he's like, oh, she's so sweet. She's so cute. I'm glad she's my wife. But there's just no thrill anymore. And he kind of laminates in the Greek god desire and joy of, let's be honest, raping women. He finds it exciting to unfurl their mysteries. Like, it's so gross to read, but it's so true. So many men love what is it called? The chase, the pursuit, as if we are like deerling and they're these mighty lions and they have to tackle and assault it. Like, ugh. And I know what you're saying. Hades did kind of abduct her for a second. And that could be seen in the same Greek god concept of the only way they can get these women is if they like snatch them up. I don't know. That's another topic for another day. But I'm just saying, in Poseidon's mind, like Hades, that's a whole nother topic. But Hades thought it was arranged. He thought, he was like, well, I'll never get away from her mom. I have to snatch her. She'll want me to, kind of thing. He thought it was consensual. But Poseidon knows what rape is. And he's like, but it's so fun. Yuck. Like, more than yuck, but just yuck for now. And he talks about like how he raped his wife. And that was so fun. And now that it's consensual, it's just not fun anymore. And he has a plot now of he's going to make Hades regret not helping Poseidon himself take Olympus, because Olympus was kind of open at the time and it was between Hades, Zeus, and Poseidon. And Zeus got it because he defeated Cronus. And Poseidon's like, but I wanted to be king. And Hades didn't help me. If he would have helped me, we could have taken it from Zeus. He goes to Persephone's room because he's like, I'm about to sexually assault the shit out of her because now I'm mad at her husband. Again, Poseidon could not be any grosser in this novel. Definitely not the cute little fish beard guy that Disney grew up. Anyways, he goes to Persephone's room. She's not in it. And he's like, oh, well, I'm going to go have breakfast. And here's Poseidon. Again, the chess movements in this book, they are so crazy. So let me give you like an inkling of kind of what he's scheming up. He straightened up with an odd feeling of relief. On and off during the journey from the palace in the sea to his island, doubts about the wisdom of forcing Persephone had risen in his mind. Crazy. He had a conscience for a moment, y'all. He was almost certain that Demeter would have no objections if he seduced her daughter, particularly since she would assume that if Persephone transferred her affections to him, she would be content to remain on the island. Rape was another matter entirely. If Persephone held a grudge for that, and a surprising number of women did not accept it as a compliment and hated bitterly the man who forced them, Demeter might also take offense. It would be stupid to annoy Demeter, Poseidon had thought. She could withhold the spring, the fertility. Worse yet, Demeter might be so angry she would think Zeus the lesser offender and return to Olympus. That would spoil his revenge against Zeus. One revenge balanced against another, but that against Zeus might bring a substantial profit. If the mages rebelled against Zeus because of the famine, and Demeter, who could end the famine, was his ally, he might be welcomed as ruler to Olympus. Revenge on Hades would bring no profit beyond the satisfaction of rubbing that pig's nose in the dirt. But Hades, if Persephone told Hades she had been forced, he did not fear Hades. There was nothing Hades could do to him. Anyways, he's like, I'm not afraid of Hades. I just don't want him to be mad at me. Besides, I won't rape her. I'll seduce her. Who can say no to a guy that smells like fish? It's crazy because I have a lot of Greek retelling novels, and Poseidon definitely, him and Apollo, definitely, I don't know if they do more or equal to damage to women as Zeus does. Everybody always talks about Zeus. Poseidon, just as bad, y'all. Real bad. He asked Demeter, hey, where's your daughter? And she's like, I don't know. Let me go scry and see. And we learn Demeter's the one that's been scrying on her ass. She's the one that's been watching her. She's got the apple, what's the little apple tag on Persephone's skirt, watching her wherever she goes. And Demeter, but see, okay, Persephone put a spell on the cottage to where people can like see what she's doing, but they can't see. It's kind of like looking through murky water. They can see what she's doing, but not like who with. And so Demeter's like, she's fucking some guy. She must have a lover, one of the natives on the island. and she calls her a little slut. Again, very Carrie's mom. Very Carrie's mom. Because remember in Carrie, her mama, anytime Carrie shows an inkling of interest in a man, she's like, "You little whore." Both her and Poseidon are just like, ew, we don't need to watch her fuck some native. Gross. And then we cut to Persephone in said lover's arms. And guess what? That beggar was Hades. And they are rekindling. And again, Patreon, $3, you perverts. And they try to come up with like a better plan because she tells Hades her plan. And he's like, "It's a good plan, honey. I like it. It's a good plan. Glad you spent all my money making a crate. Do you think your mom would be really mad at you for kidnapping her and bringing her to the underworld? Don't know if that's like the best way to get her to the house is by kidnapping her." And Persephone's like, "Then you fucking name a better reason. What do you want me to do? It's the only thing I had." And so they try to come up with a different plan. It changes a lot throughout the novel, so I won't tell you the verbatim plan. Just know they're trying to get Demeter onto a ship back to that kingdom where the portal to the underworld is, and then get her that way. Because they think if she can see the underworld and how beautiful it is and all of the work Persephone has done, she won't be mad. And we do have this cute moment. They're talking about Poseidon. "You said he had not troubled you." Hades' face went stiff, his voice cold. "He hasn't," Persephone said with a shrug. "But I never trusted him. And after I thought about it, I was sure the calling came from the sea, and the sea is his place." She smiled. "I was so frightened I didn't stop to think it might have come off a ship. Oh, some good things come from the sea. Oysters would be nice, fried shrimp. I thought they were grubs when I first saw them, but they taste delicious. And field berries if they have them." Hades shook his head. "I do not understand why you do not weigh as much as a horse. You eat like one." "I do not," Persephone said. "I never eat raw oats or hay, and I've never seen a horse eat shrimp." He burst out laughing and caught her into his arms again. "You are sweet in bed, my love, but I feel as I have not laughed since you left me. And that is what I miss most, the way you lighten my whole life." It's her dazzling brightness. She makes Hades go to Popeye's to get her fried shrimp. She's like, "I'm really hungry. Can you go get me some food?" And he's like, "Okay." And like back then, he like has to get a jar to carry food. He's like, "You got a jar? Like you have to bring your own to-go cup." He's like, all right. I'll go to the port and I'll get you fried catfish. What do you want?" As he's leaving, he's like, "Why was she so eager to get rid of me?" And as much as Hades loves her, he was such a little loser growing up. He can't, imagine it. He's like this little dark emo loser kid. And he can't imagine that the cheerleader, the head cheerleader, wants him and loves him. Like he is so, what's the word? Oh, y'all are probably screaming it. Low self-esteem. What is that? I don't know. Y'all are screaming it, comment it. It is escaping me right now. Insecure. That's it. Insecure. He's so insecure. He comes back with the food. Persephone was trying to spruce up the cottage, and so she aired the bedding, and he thinks someone's hiding, like she had a love. He thinks that while he went to go get food, she fucked someone else. And I'm like, you think she must have been very hungry. My God. And so he stabs the bed, and she's like, "Hades, what the fuck? You stabbed the mattress. That's not mine. I'm borrowing this cottage." They obviously joke about it because she's like, "Hades, I'm hungry for food. I just fucked you. What do you think I am, a machine?" And he's like, "I don't know." Anyways, they make love all day long and eat their shrimp. And Persephone goes back to the palace and she is literally glowing, like cannot be brighter. Persephone's gift is the brightest when she is happy. And she's been eating, fried seafood, a seafood bowl, and fucking her man all day. I'd be glowing too. And so she is beaming. Even the guards are like, "My eyes." She's so happy. And Poseidon's like, "Girl, you gorgeous." And Demeter makes the comment, she sees her glowing, and she says, "I want my idiot daughter to learn to heal." And you're just like, ugh. Again, Carrie's mom. She sees her beautiful daughter, and instead of being like, "My beautiful daughter, let me give her the tools to be powerful and independent and handle these men," she's just like, "No, it's your fault. You're a whore. You're a slut. It's your fault men look at you." Very that kind of vibe. And we do have this gross moment of Persephone goes back to her cottage to see Hades. And Poseidon's like, all right, I'm going to follow this girl because she's obviously fucking somebody. So she's obviously busy. And he walks to town and he's wearing a cloak to hide himself from the villagers because he's like, if the villagers see Poseidon walking down, they're going to ask for autographs. They're going to ask me to kiss their babies. I'm busy. I've got a mission on my mind. And so he's like, but then he says he wants to keep his hood off while he's sexually assaulting her so she can see the look on his face of pleasure. I know you're like, Montana, that really brings the mood down because that's like super serious. But like, if you're going to read this book, just know that that's in it. There are some really nasty mindsets of these men, mostly Poseidon, of how they view sexual assault. Again, he views it as a compliment. He wants her to look into his eyes so he can see how much he's enjoying himself. And then Demeter sees Poseidon. Okay, she sees Persephone glowing and walking off to town. And then she sees Poseidon walking after her. And she's like, oh shit, Poseidon's about to go rape my daughter. She's like, I'm following. So it's like this little beeline. And Persephone is coming up with a new idea on how to get her mom to the underworld as the latch to the cottage turns. And she's like, Hades, I have a new idea. Not Hades. Before we get to that, Hades is down by the docks getting like supplies or something because they're about to do their plan. And he sees Poseidon entering the cottage. And Poseidon, because he's a god, just enters any home with a lot of assurance. And Hades, though, is like, has he gone to that cottage before? Like, he's walking in like he owns the place. Is Persephone lying to me? Is this a trick to catch me? Is she working with Poseidon? Like, Hades just always has this inkling of doubt that, like, this is too good to be true. Anyways, and then he sees Demeter's ass running down the road and enters the cottage. And he's like, all right, something's up. We got to go. Let me drop my food and I got to go. Of course, Poseidon does grab Persephone. Luckily, Demeter immediately enters behind him, goes literally wildcat, scratches, claws him, just mama hellcat. It's one of the few times where I'm like, good on you, Demeter. Good on you. Again, her heart's in the right place sometimes. It's just the delivery. But anyways, this is a good Demeter moment. She tears Poseidon's ass up. And then Persephone drops like this big ass vase on his head. And he's knocked out conscious. But during the scuffle, Poseidon knocks Demeter out. Punches her in the face. So Hades walks into this cottage. And there's Poseidon and Demeter on the floor. And Persephone standing there with a shattered vase. And she's like, so we have to come up with a new plan, honey. Okay? Don't worry. We're almost done with this book, y'all. I know what you're saying. Like, the most happens in the last 2 chapters of these novels. The most happens. Their new plan is essentially they put Poseidon at the bottom of the crate and Demeter on top and gave them a sleeping potion and they'll just like hopefully make it to the underworld before they wake up. Demeter, they're on a ship. Sorry, guys. They're on the ship. They finally made it to the ship. Demeter wakes up. And Persephone is like, if you don't scream and you listen to me in Hades and you get along, I'll let you go. And Demeter's like, I swear on the mother, I won't scream. And this is where Demeter and Hades meet. His eyes were obsidian, his features granite. Demeter shuddered slightly. This was what Kore said was the kindest and gentlest man in the world? No, not Kore. It was Persephone, hard as flint herself, who praised Hades. Kore was sweet and gentle. Sipping her power was like tasting honeydew. The power that leaked from Persephone was hot as peppercorns. Her daughter had been ensorced, and the spell could not be leached out of her simply by the passage of time. And so Demeter's like, I got to get with Aphrodite after this and get Aphrodite to get this love spell off of my daughter. They're making a plan as to what to do with Demeter. Like, again, so many plans of like, how are we going to get Demeter on our side to understand Persephone is here on her own consent? And then what are we going to do with Poseidon when he wakes up? Because that's still a thing. And guess what? During all this, guys, a Leviathan attacks. Of course it does. A Leviathan attacks. Do you know what a Leviathan is? So that's like a biblical sea monster. It's in the Bible. And it's on the movie Atlantis, I think. Isn't that what the thing on the Atlantis, the Lost Empire, where the sergeant's just like, I want this lobster buttered up and served hot with rolls. And I don't know. I love that movie. Anyways, a leviathan is a giant sea beast in the biblical era, which of course was taken from the ancient Greek era, because that's all mythology is just rehashing the same story over and over, which we are doing right now with all of our Marvel movies. We just keep rehashing the same story. Persephone is sitting there and she's like, Leviathans don't just hang out on the top of the sea. This thing was summoned. And she runs to the crate, opens it, and they had tied Poseidon's wrists to his nutsack. So if he lifted his arms, it would cause him great pain and he would yell and they would know that he was awake. Very smart. Anyways, she grabs his wrist, yanks him up. He screams, waking up. She's like, get your ass up. I know you call that Leviathan. Call him off. And Poseidon's like, no, you crazy bitch. And here we have Persephone's Carrie moment. She cracks into that gift and she turns from dazzling brightness into the destroyer. Persephone yanked the gag from his mouth. Bid your creatures go, she screamed. Send away the Leviathan. You will die before you can unman me, Poseidon snarled. Persephone set the blade of the knife at the base of his throat and leaned on it, just enough to draw a bead of blood. The ship lurched, the knife cut deeper. Poseidon stared up into eyes that changed from gold to burning copper, then glowed red, and at hair that stood away from her head and snapped and crackled with blue sparks. You dare not, Poseidon yelled. He sought authority of tone, but the words were half a scream of fear. Hades would have never driven home that knife. Even as the ship sank, he would have been too much of a coward to spill his brother's blood. But not this mad bitch. She smiled. I've just thought, she cried, laughing above the noise of battle. When you're dead, you will all go away. They are creatures of the deep and come at your summoning, but they are in pain. Your death will release them to their natural place. No, Poseidon shouted, but he knew it was too late. If they do not go, her lips pulled back. She leaned closer, red eyes glaring as if she intended to tear his throat out with her teeth. You will be dead before Hades. That will be my joy. Wait, he bellowed. I've loosened their bonds. You are too treacherous to trust, she snarled. She would have pushed the knife home on the words, but the ship heaved, tipping her backwards. She caught at Poseidon's bound hands to steady herself, bringing another shriek of pain from him, but she did not let go of the knife. They're gone! They're gone! Poseidon yelled as she raised her arm. Kore, stop! Demeter screamed. Persephone, I acknowledge thee, she cried. Don't kill! Why? Persephone asked, the knife still poised. A priest of the corn goddess doesn't kill, Demeter pleaded. Her mother's voice was softer now, broken by sobs, but Persephone could hear her. She realized that the noise outside the shelter had almost died away. Where was Hades? Had he lost his battle before she forced Poseidon to call off his beasts? That question filled her mind and soul, but her voice responded not to her fears, but to what Demeter had said and asked harshly, And how is this different, except that this is quicker and more merciful from what you planned for the people of Olympus? Eyes and mouth round with shock, Demeter stared into the merciless face that was her daughter's, but wasn't her daughter's. Persephone was almost surprised as her mother by the words that had come out of her mouth. But if the goddess had spoken through her, she was immediately gone and, oddly, left no reluctance in Persephone to take revenge for the loss she feared and to remove permanently any threat Poseidon could create. Persephone's arm tensed to strike. Persephone, Hades said sharply from the doorway. Do not slit my brother's throat. Y'all, Persephone is so strong. She is so powerful. The goddess used her as a mouthpiece to reprimand Demeter for almost starving an island of people. For the audio listeners, I'm throwing my hands up. Y'all. Persephone! Like, she's crazy powerful. And that is why the goddess, linked up her with Hades, because only Hades could understand. And let me be like a little wax on poetic here before we do the last chapter. Hades deals with death. He deals with molten hot magma, lava, all that hot shit. Like, he deals with some of the hardest, most difficult things to deal with. So maybe that's why he's so good with Persephone, is only a weirdo like him could understand this type of power. You have to enrapture with love and respect in order to control it, or not control it, but, you know, live harmoniously with it, if you will. Demeter and Poseidon are tied up again, and they are kept under watch from Hades and Persephone, because both Hades and Persephone are like, we can't trust these. He just tried to call a Leviathan. Oh, real quick, I do love that Poseidon for a second was like, girl, quit playing. Like, she held that knife up, and he was just like, this bitch is crazy. Hades, come get your wife. I don't want her. This girl is crazy. It's always the prettiest ones that are the craziest. Or at least that's what I tell myself. Poseidon still somehow gets word out to this king and like some little underwater sea thingies, warriors, that they need to attack the owners of this crate. Like, he sends a message of like, hey, there's going to be a ship that's going to show up. It's going to have a big ass crate. You should attack the people who are responsible for that crate. And Demeter and Hades are kind of having like, not a fight, but like a discussion off. Demeter's like, I'm not going to the underworld. No. She still is like, that is an awful place. You're going to trick me. You're going to make me dead. And Hades is like, I'm not dead. I'm just the king of the dead. He said mildly, there is no reason for Zeus to fear me. Oh, because that's another reason real quick. Sorry. Demeter is like, why doesn't Zeus get my daughter from you? Is he scared of you? Why is Zeus scared of Hades if you're not a creepy, mean man? You know? Because in Olympus, it's usually the meanest and nastiest are the top dogs. So if Zeus is afraid of you, what the fuck did you do? Anyways, he said mildly, there is no reason for Zeus to fear me. He is my youngest brother and I love him. Demeter shuddered again, and Hades was satisfied and smiled slightly. He added even more gently, but even the mage king of Olympus knows it is unwise to ignore the advice of the king of the dead. Persephone blew lightly into his ear. Only the queen of the dead can be that silly. Quite true, Hades admitted. Why not, since it is my feet that get burnt carrying her away from pretty spill of lava she wished to see closer, against my advice. And Demeter's just kind of getting like, she sees them flirting and teasing each other. And like he's saying, she wanted to see pretty lava, and he picked her up and burnt his feet so she could look at it closer. And Demeter's like, what? They land on land. Wow, Montana. No, they do land on that island. And long story short, Poseidon is fighting Hades. And then the little gremlin sea gods are also fighting Hades. And then the townspeople. And then the king and the guards are like, who are we fighting? Because like, we're supposed to be on Poseidon's side, but then like, we don't want to piss off Hades. Like, everybody's fighting everybody. It's very chaotic. And that's why I'm just giving y'all that summary. Okay. Just know it's chaotic. During all this fighting, Zeus shows up. He cracks down from the sky and he's like, all right. Hera keeps telling me to come break this up. My God, y'all. What the fuck? And it's kind of funny because this whole book, Poseidon has been kind of the villain. Like, him and Demeter are kind of the villains, I guess you could say, the antagonists of this book. This whole book, like, Poseidon's just had this plan. And this whole battle, Leviathan, like, this is the climax. And Zeus is like, Poseidon, go back home. Do you need a ride? Hermes will give you a ride, my treat. And Poseidon's like, fine. And he just leaves. Like, that's all of Poseidon. Poseidon's like, I'm not going to apologize because I did nothing wrong. I didn't rape her. And Persephone's like, I guess technically you didn't. And then Hades is like, why would you force yourself on my wife? You know she's my wife. And Poseidon says, well, I thought she was cheating on you, so I was going to punish her for your sake. It was for your honor, dear brother. Like, again, to be in this Greek god crap, like, it's just, you can't trust anybody. It sounds so stressful. I understand now why so many goddesses left to live normal lives. But anyways, we have this last page of this chapter. Now, don't leave because we have an epilogue. Okay? But I want to read y'all the ending of technically this book. Demeter, Zeus said, Olympus will starve if the crop is not good this year. But I can't give your daughter back, girl. Sorry, that's me kind of adding to this. Bear with me. You should not have given her away. Zeus shook his head. I can't say that I'm sorry for that. My brother, who I love, is happy. But my daughter, who I'm not allowed to know, but who I felt needed her freedom, is also happy. I can say that I am sorry that what I did caused you a lot of pain, but that's all. Mother, Persephone said. Demeter made an angry gesture, but it did not have the force of full conviction. She was remembering how Zeus had said he was her servant, the guardian of her temple. He had not tried to usurp her powers. She knew both from what Hades had told her and from Zeus's manner that he would not again meddle in the temple affairs in Olympus either. But after a struggle that had stretched over 3 years, she hated to give in so tamely. You will have your crop, she said. I will return to Olympus with you if you desire, but I will enliven no seed nor bless any field until my daughter joins me. Demeter, Zeus begged. That is what we promised, brother, Hades said. Persephone will come each spring to bless the seed and fields of Olympus with her mother. Then she will return to me. You're generous, brother, Zeus said. Hades grinned. I am an enslaved husband, brother, and do my wife's will. You are my good and gracious lord, always indulgent. Persephone leaned forward and kissed Hades' lips, and what was between them filled the room so that Zeus looked away, his lips thin with envy, and Demeter's eyes brimmed with tears. And that's technically the end of this book outside of the epilogue. Okay, let me read y'all the epilogue. And the epilogue is 3 pages, so I think I can read this verbatim to y'all because I think it's important. The seed had been quickened, the fields blessed, so strong with the power that the first fields already showed a mist of green shoots. In 2 days more, Demeter would need to accompany her daughter to the entrance of the great cave where the sacrifices to the dead were sent and yield her to the black-eyed Hades. Demeter hesitated, then entered the door held open by a smiling and cherubic boy-child who led her swiftly down the wide corridor to another door that opened into a large chamber painted in the likeness of a lovely garden. Beyond a small pool into which tinkled a tiny fountain, soft cushioned couches were drawn into a close semicircle. On the central couch, Aphrodite reclined. Demeter felt surprised, as she always did when she saw Aphrodite. Despite the many years she had known her, and no matter how often she saw her, each time Demeter still expected a sensual, knowing woman with a voluptuous body, full breasts, rounded hips, and thighs. Instead, she saw the figure of a barely knowable girl, a perfectly modest gown, and an expression of innocence that wrung the heart. "We're so glad to have you back, dear Demeter," Aphrodite said. Again, Demeter was shaken. The voice was sweet, low, musical, full of sincerity and conviction. Demeter gathered her wits and reminded herself that was part of Aphrodite's gift. It was neither true nor false, just part of her. "Zeus has spoken to you as promised?" Demeter asked. "Oh, yes. He is very eager to avoid any misunderstanding. He asked me to break the spell that causes your daughter to love Hades, but that's impossible." "I thought you could break and make any love spell." "And so I can," Aphrodite said. "But I know no spells that can change true love into hate or indifference, and if I did, I would not use such an abomination." "But if she is bespelled to love him—" "Demeter, Persephone is not bespelled. I have seen her, heard her, touched her, smelled her, even tasted her. No spell was ever used. She loves Hades for who he is, for what he has given her, and most of all, his terrible need for her." Aphrodite shrugged. "I can make and break a false loving. I can paint a garnish of image of love over the dull or ugly truth of hate or indifference. But when love comes of itself, the truth gives color to life. I cannot change that. And so it is with Hades and Persephone. Then I must yield her to him. Only until next spring, Demeter. For a few weeks. Then I must give her up again. Because he needs her more than you do, Demeter. He only has Persephone and will forever only have Persephone. Will you not open your eyes and see the many daughters that wish to love you and learn from you? Demeter turned away, but she was not scowling, nor was her jaw set in the ugly line that had so long marked her unshaken determination to regain control of her daughter. She looked back over her shoulder at Aphrodite. I knew it when we parted in Olympus, she said, but I had to make sure. Suddenly she smiled. These have been sweet weeks with more love and kindness between us than has been for years. I will be content. The end. And that is Dazzling Brightness by Roberta Gales. I cannot wait to read more Roberta books because like I said, to write such chemistry, the teasing, the jokes, like Hades wasn't painted as some loser. He wasn't painted as some god. He wasn't painted as some big manly man. He was painted almost human, of just like, girl, you gonna eat me out of house and home. Chill out on the fried shrimp. And Persephone, I loved, again, she was naive. She was homeschooled, but she knew that jeweled flower was a lure. She was like, she just subconsciously wanted to leave, Luckily, it was Hades and it wasn't Poseidon's crazy self. And again, I love Poseidon's whole book. He's been this big bad Poseidon doing his thing. And at the end, Zeus is like, do you need a ride? And he's like, yeah, kind of. Do my thing with Carrie. Come on, y'all. Persephone's kind of giving Carrie vibes. Not identical, not saying Carrie is a modern retelling of Persephone. I'm just saying at lunch, they would have a lot to talk about. Because they both have moms that their love is in fear and they fear their daughter's power and they keep it hidden from them and they keep them hidden from the world because if the world knew of their daughter's powers, they would take advantage of them like they've been taken advantage of. And both of their mamas have been scorned by men, hate men, think that men are the devil. And then that's another thing, again, back to that Carrie moment of it's not Satan, mama, it's me. Like, that's very Persephone. She's like, it's not Hades. I have the power. I'm the demon. As Poseidon, saw, where he was like, Hades, come get your girl. She's crazy. Her hair is standing up. But yeah, Persephone's like, Hades isn't the one you should fear. Fear me. I give Hades his power. And that's such a good way to describe kind of like a partnership of like, we have to give each other power. Hades gave Persephone her freedom. She gives Hades enough power to be a god. To the audio listeners, I'm shrugging. I'm doing okay. Sorry. I know a lot of y'all listen on Spotify and on car rides and stuff. And I don't want you to think like there's a moment of not talking. I'm doing gestures. I'm a very hands talking kind of girl. But yeah, that's a great way. And then Persephone and Carrie have their Carrie moment of they fucking snap. And everybody's like, oh shit, these little blondes, these little girls with their little southern accents are fucking nuts. Do y'all want me to do a retelling of a recap of Carrie so we can continue this discussion like more, or do y'all want me to do something else? Because outside of Carrie, I was on the Patreon for an extra video. I was going to recap Blair Witch Project because I know y'all really enjoyed me ranting about how that is essentially an hour and a half of the worst and dumbest camping moves ever made. I could do that. Let me know in the comments if y'all want me to continue this and recap Carrie, or if y'all want me to do Blair Witch Project, or if you want me to do something else. I will give y'all the sex scenes. Don't worry. There's only 2 or 3 in this whole novel that are detailed. They do fuck a lot, don't get me wrong, but it's always fade to black, which I appreciate. I don't really care to read a lot of sex scenes, but I know people look at these novels and that's what started us on this journey is the sexism of people go, it's girl driven. It's written by a woman. It's for women. It must be just smut. There's two sex. You see Hades' dick twice in this novel. Wow. You know, you see more on evening TV nowadays. But yeah, back to like the Carrie thing. I don't know. And like Carrie, there's like, it's a spring formal. So there's elements of her being spring prom queen. And like Dorcas could be one of the girls in the bathroom throwing a tampon at her because she doesn't understand what her period is. Have y'all seen Carrie? It's wild. Maybe I will recap it just for my own enjoyment. The original, not the other two that were remade. Did I like this novel? I think that's pretty apparent. I love this novel. Again, I will probably keep this one in my personal stack because, again, I'm going to end up selling these on eBay if y'all want to buy them with my doodles in them and my notes written in them. But I just, you know, I read a book a month. I read one of these a month, if not two. That's a lot of books. And I don't like clutter. So I planned on keeping them in circulation so y'all could also read them and go, wow, Montana really fucked this retelling. But this one I might keep. This one was really good. I loved it. I loved Hades. Again, Hades, we talk about this every time. The men are usually the better characters in these novels for some reason. Like the men are always more fleshed out and better personalities. Persephone might be up there as my favorite character we've written female-wise. She's a hoot. Again, Megan Thee Stallion or Britney Spears would have made a great Persephone in this because they just have that southern attitude of just like, you know, Hades being like, can I borrow a bottom half of your dress? I promise I'll give you more dresses. And she's like, why you got all these dresses then? If you a single man looking for a wife, why you got all these dresses hanging around? I don't want your girls' dresses they left. And he's like, girl, shut the fuck up. I will get you new dresses. That's not what I meant. Damn. Like her, again, the idea of like Megan Thee Stallion and like that Skarsgård guy, Bill Skarsgård, is it Bill? The one that's Pennywise, that one, not the dad, not Mamma Mia, and not the one from the Viking show, the other one, the one that's Nosferatu. He would make a good one. Or like I said, I don't know a lot of Greek actors. And now that I know, again, it said that he had Afro textured hair. Now I'm thinking of like an actual person of color being the king of the underworld in Greek mythology. Hello. That always drove me nuts real quick of how like it's always Greek mythology and like they still cast white actors. And I'm not saying white skinned people weren't in Greece. Like there are blondes in Greece. Don't get me wrong. But when I think of a Greek man, a Greek god, I'm thinking of like Jason Mantzoukas because he's Greek. He would make a great Zeus. I think he would make an amazing Zeus because a lot of the characters he portray is that chaotic energy of like sex machine and just craving on chaos. Jason Mantzoukas as Zeus, please. But yeah, Hades, like I said, Skarsgård, or just like a quiet, creepy guy. I don't know. That's my own limited knowledge. But yeah, or like a little, like I said, Britney Spears would have been a cute little Persephone back in her Crossroads days of just like, mama, please let me out of this conservatorship. Is Britney Spears Persephone? Was the conservatorship her Demeter? She just needs a Hades to calm her down, right? She's dancing with knives. She just needs a Hades to help tap into her power. I don't know. I'm just kidding now. I'm just talking. All right. I love this novel. I hope y'all did too. I hope y'all didn't cringe too bad at my voice acting. I'm just having fun with it, guys. I gotta practice if I'm ever gonna get a job. Our next book. This is called Time Kept Promises by Constance O'Day Flannery. And I loved it because I thought the cover was really pretty. And I know what you're saying, Montana, hold up the fucking cover. Ooh, sorry, ring light. Look how pretty that is. I always go off the covers. I know they say don't judge a book by its cover, but these covers are super pretty. So I do lean more towards the prettier, aesthetically pleasing one. This one, Time Kept Promises. Are we going to have another time portal romance like in Forever and Beyond? Probably. Let's read the back. A distant past. Christine Gavin was depressed about turning 30 until she received a most unusual gift from her brother. It was a portrait he'd found in the attic of their family home in Virginia. A portrait of a woman who must have been their ancestor, judging from Chris's resemblance to the beauty. But it wasn't the painting that intrigued Chris. An old newspaper clipping about the woman's strange disappearance caught within the frame drew her in. Just as Chris was uncovering a fascinating secret from the past, she sensed a change in the air and found herself thrown back into a strange room, staring into the eyes of the sexiest man she's ever seen. An uncertain future. Sean O'Mara froze when he saw his wife Christina standing before him. She had vanished and the news had been written about it in all the papers. He had even been charged with her murder. But now he had living proof of his innocence, and Sean was not about to let her get away. No matter what the woman was claiming to be someone named Christine, she still caused his blood to boil. Yet despite their differences, Sean wanted to hold his fiery vixen in his arms, caress her satiny skin, kiss her ruby lips, and pledge his love forever with time-kept promises. That sounds really fun. I'm excited. I know what you're saying. Montana, did you not read the back when you bought it? I didn't. I wanted it to be a surprise with y'all. When was this take? Like, if there's newspapers, so many of our books are so like old history, like the 1800s or ancient Greece. This one, I'm wondering if it's more relatively modern. What do you call this? Summing up the patience, Chris smiled at the man seated at the end of the table. It's called chicken parmesan, and that's called spaghetti. Oh my God, we're going to have a good time with that book. I can already tell. All right, kids, stay tuned for my Patreon information if you're interested in that so that we can buy a better microphone and an actual camera. And I'm not saying that, no, please give money so I can afford these things. I'm just saying it takes a community, okay? It takes a community. This is public broadcasting, without viewers like you, none of this would be made possible. Of which I do want to say real quick, I never get to say thank you because I'm always trying to shorten these videos because I don't want to take up y'all's time. I talk so much. But if you've made it to the end, please know I do really, really appreciate y'all's comments and y'all's supports. Y'all give me assurance and self-encouragement and so many kind words that I haven't even heard from my family. Like someone told me, like, we love you, Montana. And I was like, things my family has never told me for 500, Alex. Don't worry. My family's nice. They're very Hank Hill. They don't express a lot of affection. But my parents, not my husband and my kids. Sorry. I don't want you to think my kids don't tell me they love me. But what I mean is y'all are so fucking sweet and so nice and so encouraging. And y'all understand when I do mess up that it's like, oh, that's just Montana. Like, but I do read your comments. I don't comment on all of them because I'm a completionist and then I would have to comment on every single one of y'all's and that would just take up too much of our time. So do know I do see them. I really appreciate them. I love the support. I love the community that we are creating here. Okay. This is not just me doing a YouTube channel, reading y'all books. Like y'all are giving me feedback. Y'all are letting me know what y'all want to hear. Y'all are reading, y'all are going to flea markets and getting these books. Like we are bringing life back in here. And a lot of these authors are still alive. And so my dream is to get big enough to where we can get these authors, Beverly Jenkins, hello, and let them know we love y'all. We love these books. Netflix, call me and let me do this recap like Drunken History. All right. Thank y'all so much. I will see y'all on Patreon in a few weeks, like a week or two, on YouTube in another month. All right, guys. Enjoy this rainy season. Spring is on the way. Persephone she's about to hang out with her mama. We got to be happy for her. All right. Bye.